All right, it says we're live. Let me double check YouTube, make sure it's going.
Hi, everybody.
I can actually give it 1 second. There's a little bit of a 10-second delay with YouTube, so let's make sure.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. All right, come on, YouTube, do your thing.
Let's do
All
this.
right, we're live. Perfect. Hello, everyone. We
Hey,
are here. Camera's on today.
finally. Usually, I always put in the camera because I'm not shy about my looks at all. So, if any of you guys on YouTube who haven't been on Twitter, face reveal, Stephen and Sudrian Modeler. Very glad to be here.
And I am Nick, aka the Unlucky Tug. Yep, we are here to talk about everything model trains today. We don't really have a set topic, but both Stephen and I are both we love models, we love trains, so we're going to talk about that.
Fun stuff.
Before we get started, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Easter. If you are lucky enough to be with your family right now, then I hope you're enjoying your time with your family. And if you're not, then, well, I hope you're enjoying watching this then. Alrighty, so let's jump into it. We give Stephen a little intro here. Stephen, Sudrian modeler, previous worker of the TCC, previous animator of the TCC, amazing artist and wonderful model maker, is here to join me tonight, and we're going to talk about how about trains?
Good times. Yeah. You guys may have remembered back in the day when I came on YouTube, I was known as Vision Scale Modeler because I was trying to figure out what name to give myself. Sacred Wolfie on YouTube was one of the first people who began sharing my work when I was in college, sharing the videos that I was doing in my computer and saving it and putting it up on YouTube the first time. And it's been incredible since then. I've been a regular YouTuber at that point, and since college and finishing it, I had to take a hiatus and to find like a job, some kind of career. I decided to go on Twitter, and you, Nick, were there when you were doing your reviews and thoughts on videos. And everyone that I've met in the comments, began making friends with, were on Twitter. And when I came on, like about 2016, around my birthday, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Vision Scale Modeler isn't dead! You're back!" And that was incredible because this is YouTube. I couldn't create as much anymore because of a new house. I would be able to share live updates with Twitter. It's very instantaneous, which I like, because if I have something that I was working on, like any of my models, my large scale models are like Renee's and Scarloey, those railway series looking engines, and my HO scale stuff, structures, rolling stock, customizing, I can share it, share favorite creators who I was collaborating with, engage with followers in the comments. That's how I actually got to join the TCC for a while. I was an animator. I did the eyes and the animation, color grading, visual effects. I even later on in 2018 took on Matt's role as an associate producer, not only being a shooter, but making rough cuts to send to be reviewed by Mattel and get feedback. And that really built my ability to edit. And that's kind of like my occupation now. I'm a post-production editor and animator for an entertainment company. I've done work for Mattel. I've done work for Nickelodeon and Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I've done some work for Fox through this group too, which you guys know is now owned by Disney. I love it. I love animation. I love visual storytelling. And with animation and film editing, that's kind of like my occupation as a career. Like you, Nick, you're a graphic designer. And when I'm not working, I'm doing art, drawing, and for my Thomas model making stuff, I'm just on my table making things. So that's who I am.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. I think with everything that's going on in the world right now, a lot of us are kind of diving into modeling right now. So it's a good time to work on stuff for sure.
Yeah.
So how about why don't you share some of your models with us, Stephen? You have some wonderful stuff on hand.
I'm sure everyone who has been waiting to see stuff from me from YouTube has been waiting for me to show stuff too. So I'm looking forward to it. With my little icon, you guys probably know that I love this guy, Renee's. Very, very my heart because I just like his shape. I've always loved Renee's, the Gownal engine. So I've been giving these guys a season 5 construction and give them a Railway series look to it because, like in the Railway series and the original illustrations, the Railway livery of the Scarloey engines was red with blue stripes. So this is cardstock. All this is constructed not with plastic, not with brass, because when I was younger, I made everything with paper. and I would get stuff from the craft store and put stuff together with my Lego chassis. That's how it runs. I could control it with a remote controller. The wheels are by Big Ben Bricks from Portland, Oregon. You can look them up. They make big, different alterations of drivers. But the coupling rods, I make all myself. And it's, believe it or not, a mix of cardstock wrapped around toothpicks. That's what the crosshead mounts are. And the coupling rods, balsa wood. Craft wire, let's see, fish tank ballast for coal. And everything else is painted and weathered. I could even take that little hatch. This little piece on Renee's roof is a hatch, so it can lift, and I can put a little stick right there to put it up. Rosie has that too, the American locomotive.
Oh, wow.
You look in the very front, the lamp, as you know, every lamp code has a different meaning. So Stepney, all the locomotives have these different head codes. So like Stepney, you may see two of these on either side. He's pulling an express or a passenger train. If Renee's has run right here, he's running light engine. Looks like he's ready to eat that. That's silly, right? Here on the corner, we have one right here, and he's pulling a mixed train, right? So I can put them on the front and put them on the back. It's pretty cool. And one thing about Renee is he is a well tank engine. His tanks are mounted on the back right here. You see that little spout? Mm-hmm. I'm sure one question people had was, what was this for? And why was this little thing sticking out? This is his water spout pipe that the water spout from the water tower would come, and the driver would put it inside the little mount right here. And that's mm-hmm. where it would fill up. It's a small tank because it's a short railway, so he wouldn't have a problem. But that's how he would get loaded up. Couplers are made with this craft wire and some chains. The buffers, everything is molded and glued with balsa wood, braced together, some tape. That's how I make my stuff. And the face.
I was just about to ask what this is made of. It looks like balsa wood is the majority of it.
Yeah, from the sides and the rivets. Those are, believe it or not, peelable gems, the type that you can actually get in like little sheets like these, and I spray paint them with a matte paint, and then I stick them out individually and put them on. Kind of like the Nitrogen Studios era. I wouldn't have thought long ago we would talk about bolts with the current show, right? Because they could be really big, like M&Ms. But these, like Nitrogen Studios, did a really good job when they recreated the Scarloian, is because they did a lot of research with the prototype. And so, like, referencing that, like, they did a really good job with that. And I wanted to include, like, details that I like. I like the season 5 look. I like including stuff from the prototype. But overall, I'm going to look at, like, what would happen if these units were made like they were with the Railway Series scheme with other added details in the Thomas show. That's kind of like what inspired me to create what I do. Yeah.
It's a wonderful amalgamation of just like all three versions of Bernays. You have like season 5 kind of like style body. You have the livery from the Railway Series, but then you have real life like stuff from the real Dalgok on there too. It's like a perfect amalgamation of everything.
Yeah. I've also got Duncan because as a good candidate, you know how I looked in the ARC era where he looked like a season 5 model, kind of botched. But I combined the look from Douglas because I love his season 5 cab very much. Hold on a second.
Oh, I think he's moving a pupil.
He does, and I need to put it right back on. They're not perfect because they're stickers, because that's just what I had. That is so accurate right there. The
perfect expression for him.
There you go. I love his shape very much. Like he had a bigger cab, larger, lower portal holes for the cab. It is such a cool look. So I adapted it for this remake that I did with this in this engine. The cab detail. Oh yeah, he is a well tank. He has his tank stored in his chassis. Andrew Barclay and German Orstein and Koppel Dutch engines have this look. So the water is stored in this pipe. And if you remember Millie from The King of the Railway, the French engine, she has hers on the very front. But I saw a couple of photographs of some similar engines that had in the side. So again, this cap can pop off. I can put it right back on. And same thing with the couplers and the buffers and everything. Pretty movable.
It's so great. I feel like Duncan was the one that got screwed over the most in terms of like proportions. Like even the prop, the original season 4 prop is like not very true to like what Douglas looks like. So I think you did some justice there. He looks a lot better with the actual prototype proportions.
Yeah, and when they even remade, started making stories of the same season 5 plus models that were larger in season 6, they also took off the cab, repainted, make him like a school bus yellow, and gave him a season 4 inspired cab back, which I think people really like a lot better because it's nostalgic of the way he looked in the very beginning, which is pretty cool. Let's see.
Pull that up actually. We can take a look at that.
Someone has asked, have you done Peter Sam? He is in the mix. I'll show it in a second. I had to get him over here from the shelf. All my bookshelves are behind here in the very front, so if I'm working on something, I've got some displayed. Doesn't have pupils, but here's Peter Sam. I still need to make his side rods and his funnel, but he is under construction right now. So is Stuart in green.
Wow, looks great. I assume he's going to have the special funnel, the Giesel.
Yeah,
okay.
He'll have his funnel, his bent funnel, the little pipe, so he can be able to have rope wrap around it, and his Giesel funnel, which I really do like.
Oh, so it can be interchangeable. Oh, that's cool.
Exactly. I mean, I would do the same thing with the buffers because these can come off. I would have him with his chorus buffers. I mean, his chorus hook couplers, and then give it one where he has the oval buffer beams like Duncan, for example. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. You can like just change different versions of him depending on the story you're telling with him. That's great. And you've also done Scarlet, correct? Mm-hmm. And then you've done Rusty too.
I've done Rusty. He's in gray. He's in gray, like he was in the series. And I've also done Proteus. That was for a sequel for the TCG that I did when we were doing a Halloween episode. And I was able to make him in a week. That's usually about when I'm working in the evenings. That's how long it usually takes for me to do an engine, So it's cool. Same thing with rolling stock and all that. And then when you look at my early videos, I have like a really big Afghan quilt that's like in zigzags, the kind my grandmother used to knit, that I put on, and I put it on the cliffside with the hill going down from where the track ends, where Proteus is looking over, and it's like, whoa! So people knew like that's my signature. I included it at that video, so that was pretty cool.
What's that video called? I want to pull it up now just so we can show it everyone.
Sure. Let me pull it up too because I need to make sure I know what it's called. Folder. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff that I really did like doing with the TCC because that's how I got to make friends with people that I really got close with from the community. Spooky Sodor episode 3, in the very end, you see his light flicker and then come away in the camera, and then I had it fade with the clips layer on top of each other, and then poof, he disappears. It's in the very end where Wooden Railway Bertram says, everyone knows there's no such thing as ghosts, and then you have the steam coming up. Yeah.
This is episode 3, you said?
Episode 3, yeah. You got Gordon and Scotsman and some of the other Trackmaster and Adventures engines in the very front.
I can't find 3. I can't find it in 3. Maybe it was a different one?
Here, I can also type it in for you too. Let me get it.
Okay. If you got it, yeah, you pull it up. Yeah. I might got the wrong one.
Yeah. In the meantime, you can definitely ask more questions too. We can still keep talking.
For sure, yeah. Absolutely. You are you working on Sir Handel right now? Since he's on main what you haven't done.
Yeah, he's coming up next, and so would be Duke, because they're like the second mid-Sodor engines that I have to make after Peter Sam and quote-unquote Stuart, right? So I want to do those, and I want to make more of the engines that, like Freddie and maybe even Smudger as Stanley from the Railway series, and even begin like making some of my own locomotives that are narrow gauge too.
That'd be cool. I wonder if you would do like any of like the later ones, such as like, I don't know, Luke or Mighty Mac or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, here he is. Here, I'll link it to you in the private chat that we have, and then you can put it back on here, or I can just put it in the comments. Here you go. I put it on your Discord, and I put it in the chat here. There you go. Perfect. Timeline, it is like, let's see. Let me pull it up, and then in the time code, it's like right about when it hits 7 minutes and 40 seconds. That's where it pops up.
40 seconds. I see it. There we go. All right. Pull it up. Here we go. There he is.
That was such a fun shot to make. The moon, the color grading I did with compositing, and then have the steam come out, the digital overlay, then that was incredible. Just making something moody and atmospheric. Yeah.
That's so cool. And is the light, is that all also like just a visual effect?
That I remote controlled from a little wire that is right hidden beneath his wheels, and I had the controller like mounted off on the side. So when I turned it on,
Oh,
it would flicker. Then I just made sure that when he was traveling backwards, the wire traveled with him, because that's, with what you work with what you have, right? Because I need to work with being able to wire things better. But and then I was able to match it together pretty seamlessly when I was tracking it. Yeah,
that's freaking amazing. I would have guessed it was just a visual effect, but the light's actually on.
yeah.
That is so cool.
Practical effects, man. That's one thing I've always loved with the Thomas show. And now because of this, like Proteus, I've really grown attached to him as a character. That's one of those one-off random characters because he just is
Mhm.
interesting to me now. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Proteus is one of those characters, like there's so nothing to him that you could really just craft like a really interesting story out of that.
Cole, which of the air gauge engines do you think is the most underused? That's a good question because I mentioned Proteus. And when you look at the main cast, I think an obvious answer is Duke because you look at Ricky and Lewis and restoring him and bringing him back into the fandom was incredible. I'd love to
Oh
see
yeah.
Duke become involved in CGI episodes and what it'd be like if he was bought. Like you look at Sir Robert Norby, correct me if I'm wrong, he's supposed to be like the person who is the Duke's son growing up, and he was with them with the thin clergyman, the fat clergyman when they discovered Duke. So I would like to see him being like an engine who would have his presence at Skarloey Railway on occasion go on the narrow gauge line that goes to the Ulstead Castle and be part of like we were left in season 20, you remember, like with mentioning about him opening up a museum where you would have guests from probably the mainland and maybe other countries who are older, like Glenn. We got to see Glenn and Toby interact with Steven and those characters. I would have loved to have seen something like that.
I'm shocked that I kind of wonder if that was like the plan at one point,
Yeah.
because like in season 20, when you mention that, they're like hinting at, oh, there's some big stuff to come,
Yeah.
but nothing happens. So it's like, I wonder if they did have some big plans, but who really knows?
Here's another one from my friend Callie at Flute Girl 2406. Steven and Nick, who do you like better, Rhaenyra or Skarloey? Wow.
Really, hands down. Girl is my favorite one.
I've always liked his shape because he's really reminiscent of the cabs that were given to engines at that period because it looks so appealing. But I love him as a character, as the oldest and the one we identify with. You look at one of your favorite episodes, Four Little Engines. I love
For sure.
the story that they gave to Skarloey for that one in particular. That this resonates who he is and establishes his character. And talking about that, I love to see Skarloey more because in the newer series, like I love the sets so much of the wharf and the transfer yards and the countryside scenes where you go into the mountains where you see Freddie, Sir Handel, and Skarloey navigating their way when looking for Rhaenyra in the cliff sides. Like that's a reminiscent callback to the Boulder Mountain Quarry line to me that would go to Ulstead or Machen Mountain because that layout and that look is so beautiful. I would love to recreate something like that because right now I'm making buildings and structures for stuff large scale and smaller scale that's still being worked on. And when I do, I would love to make dioramas so that I can recreate that look because I've learned a lot doing more with the TCC when I was making sets and then doing by practicing and trying stuff out. And then if you're on YouTube and if you haven't followed me on Twitter, you can look up my name at Steven at Sodor RY Modeler with one L. That's where I've been mostly occupied with for the last couple of years where again, I was saying in the beginning, instantaneous, so I can share products I've been working on and do it where if I'm making stuff for videos, I would be sharing stuff with there. I've done test animations. I've got Thomas's eyes moving around. I even did a test sequence with Bill and Ben. Quick shout out to Xavier at Light and Cold because on his Shapeways store, he did these beautiful faces that were Bill and Ben. They are so gorgeous. The eyeballs are one of those 6mm white paint gun balls, and they're put on the very back. And if I can take it off, I can show you. This is what it looks like by itself. And on the very back, there's a bit of blue tack, so I can mount them in between them. And Kudak 888 did the vinyl pupils. He could do them with gloss or with matte. So I commissioned him to do a couple of those for me in my faces because I wanted to do something with these. So I did a whole sequence of Bill and Ben with the brake vans, and that was really fun to do because I did the narration, I did a little portion. I'm like, well, what if I took the stuff that I was doing at the studio that I was doing for my job, put everything together with the scenics and the lights and stuff like that that I had put together for my putting everything together to make like a little sequence for the beginning of a new episode. So yeah, like I can look for it and post in the chat too because I still really love that sequence I did.
I'm actually looking for it right now. I was gonna pull it up. Yeah, that was fun to see. I gotta ask, well, do you plan on doing more like actual like full-on films with your models? I know at one point you mentioned you wanted to do stories prizes. That's still like the plan, or?
Yeah,
Okay,
because
cool.
I remember making those faces for Diesel 199 when I was sculpting faces. I did some for D199. I did one for Bear as a practice, and I also did some from Arthur. What I would like to do, because you're a career man, as an artist, we both work in a similar occupation. You know what it's like, where like I don't know about you guys, but I'm like one of the older members of the community, and I don't mind sharing. Like I'm 27 years old. I'll turn 28 in September. But I've also gone into career mode and a job, and I'm like having a life and growing responsibilities. When I'm not working, I'm modeling, and I'm kind of like building up like my comeback, so to speak, because career takes up so much of your time. And even with the studio, like I have a studio space in town where I go to shoot stuff for myself. It's like a big room where I have 2 4x8 tables. And I've got the stuff that I can be able to start. And it's just the time that it would take for me to be able to begin making things because it does take a lot of time and effort to plan out a scene, be able to put things together. Like, I'll give you an example. Say I was doing Brenham Docks, like for my Frankie Bugs remake or the Brenham Dock set that I did. And I made a whole compilation of video moments that I had filmed and haven't finished that I put into a comp video to show like different moments. Like here's Percy from Happily Ever After, or here's Henry going by the yard for coal or something like that. And so I would make the props, like the cranes and the warehouses in paper when I was doing in 2008, put it all together with my track and put everything together and scenic it up, film all the clips I would want for each scene. And if I'm either not happy with it, because this is called live scenery, live layout building, and live annotates that nothing is permanent. So what I do is I put everything up and I film and take photographs and whatever I want, take it back down and make a new scene. So we would do that with Maithwaite Station or another countryside scene or something large scale with narrow gauge. And that's how I would work when I was younger. I would rotate back and forth because time can be, pretty with career and being able to adjust that. Other than that, I just work on my models because that would help me be able to know like what is it that I would like to do and then figure out like stories because I want to do remakes because I just don't want to like my friend Mike at the Burry Truck. We like talking stories between each other a couple of times. Like I don't want to just do blind remakes anymore. I want to take some of my favorite episodes, think about the way the Railway series and the TV series did, and think about like I'm like if you could play the big Bill and Ben sequence, I have a shot of narrating. I can do a good Alec Baldwin impression because I like his style, and if I want to, I can commission someone like the people who did voice acting or another person would narrate because I would like to change up some stuff a bit because there's behind the scenes and
Sure. This is so impressive to me because like these are just 00 scale models, but this is like on par with the Gauge 1 stuff from the show, I think. You could totally do something really, really, really creative.
Together, they practice their movements, and we're shunting all the brake fans of the whole yard. The crews promised at the end of the day they would give them a good polish. The twins felt much better, and they could not wait to get started. I love it so much.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to see more like original content like this from you. I think this is so cool.
Yeah.
You floated like really good story ideas to me before. I'm like, I want to see like those follow through on.
Thank you.
I've always thought about like if I were to do, I've actually like thought about this and like planned it out before. If I were to, I think with like every Thomas fan, there's always that want to like model the show and like do your own films, because like that's what Thomas is. It's models that are filmed. So of course every fan wants to do just that. And that interest has never really gone away from me. I always wanted to film and edit Thomas together. I would love to do like sort of like my own take on the original Railway series stories, such as like not like scene for scene like they did in the show, or completely like exactly how they play out in the books, but like more of like a different take where it's the same story. Maybe the locations changed up. Maybe like little details are changed here and there to make the story make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But I would love to do like just my own take on those, specifically like the standard gauge stories. And I've thought about like, how would I do that? How would I like change the canon to fit this vision I have of it? I've like sat down and I thought about, if I were to do this, I would need to like have certain sets ready to go at all times. The biggest one would be Tidmouth Sheds in the station. That set that I have to have at all times. I couldn't just film the entire series on it and then take it down. It'd be like, that needs to stay static all the time.
I remember when Bachman and Mavis first came out, where there were certain engines that Bachman was making that I didn't have, that I couldn't film with because Edward wasn't around, so I couldn't make the Big Station or Gordon's Hill, same thing with Donald and Lewis. And then came out years later, and I was beginning to get into school a lot. But then it's like, when I got them, I was so excited because when I put them on my Tidmouth shed set, I mean, my Tidmouth yard set, because I couldn't make Tidmouth sheds. I couldn't figure out how to make it.
Oh, yeah.
I would film and take pictures, and I was so excited because they're making things since even now. Like, we're getting Daisy, guys. Bachman's making Daisy, and that's like the newest merchandise. We haven't gotten any merchandise aside from Bachman. We got a re-release of Daisy and Wooden Railway, but not the new style. It's Bachman, not minis, not Take and Play or Learning Curve. It's Bachman is making Daisy. That's pretty incredible. So like those things I think are really true, because like I could definitely see you make something where tell the story of Salty, but in a Railway series like style for a story, or write one and someone could adapt something like that. That'd be cool.
For sure, yeah. You said Daisy. Was the wooden Daisy, whatever year that came out, was that the last Daisy toy we got?
I think, what was it? You guys who are wooden users down below, you can let us know. But like in the mid 2010s, like 2014, 2015 or something, I could be wrong. But yeah, around that time. And that was before Bachman announced theirs, like last year or the year before. But yeah.
Wow. The fact we're getting a Daisy by Bachman is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
I'll have to buy that just to support it.
Absolutely.
Crazy stuff. I know you have some other models with you right now.
I do, yeah. I got a couple. Let's see. By the way, any of you saw that little caboose? I need decals for it, but I was able to take a caboose, a bobber that was brass, and I updated the front of the couplers so that I have the Bachman buffers and what are called Smith's chain link couplings in the front and back. And I even was able to make the brake pipe too. I've always wanted to see one because I've always loved that Sodor Alliance caboose from the Learning Curve, and I wanted to see what it looked like within just pulling it or having it on the side because, as an American, I love cabooses. But yeah, you can get them in vinyl or you can make them from decals. You can commission someone to do that, but yeah, they're fun. What else I got here? If you guys know Adams, the Adams radial from the Bluebell Railway that Stepney talks about in his second story in the original book, this is this guy. And what I did was, like the 3D modelers in the community, they've given him Murdoch's face. So what I did was I took a Nagatayoshi face from Murdoch and put it on for this Hornby one that was custom weathered.
I love that. Yeah. I freaking love it.
Me too. It's such a beautiful engine, and he runs like a charm. I've taken him with me on
really good runner, that model. I have that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And two things that I think you might like. These have been my favorite customs that I've done. Let's see if I can. There we go. Dodge and splatter, but Marion Bird's chassis basis.
Got it. Those look like those are the props. Those are 100% the props. It's amazing how accurate those are.
Yeah. Let me check his name too, because I want to make sure I get the guy who did the faces. Other than that, I can link you guys in there. But there was one guy on Twitter who did a really good job making these faces. And if you're looking on Shapeways, he is known as, let me go over here, because I've got these all bookmarked over here. Let's see. Because what I did was I took the 3D prints and I used chalked aged gray from Rust-Oleum, and that's been like my go-to color for spray painting faces. If I'm doing 3D printed face paints, or if I'm restoring something from like one of my wooden toy train stuff, I would take it and I would spray paint it. And then what I did was I took the chassis apart, I unscrewed it, and I made sure that I can cover the wheels and spray paint the rods black. And then I would take it in the body, and I did the same thing with the gray. If I could, I would take the cab. I used a pin vise to cut open the windows and then drill it out so I can have it open, and put clear plastic for the windows, matte spray paint it. And then Diesel 10 TV at Nicholas on Shapeways did these little headlight mounts. So I was able to strip the molding on the very front on the back. And then I was able to put a piece of card on top of it, sand it, make sure it blended with the body. And then I masked and painted everything by hand. After that, Kudak 888 commissioned me to do the splatter and dodge names. And these are Century Gothic. I think that's what it is, because that's what it looked like from the movie. And I gave it 3 chain link couplings from Smith's, and these two have been like my favorites because I've always wanted to do it with these faces, and they are incredible. They're incredible. Yeah.
It's funny how just those couplings alone, if you just put those on the Bachmann models, it's amazing how much that just like lifts them.
Oh, dude. If you look on Shapeways, it is called Out of Oil by Out of Oil. If you look Out of Oil on Shapeways, he makes the dodge and splatter faces for the customs. And if you look at my Twitter, you can see I can even post it if I need to too, because they're very good. And if you want to do a custom of dodge and splatter, highly recommended. Very cool. Let's see. I got a small building. This is made from JTT Scenic's brick texture. But I used that to create the sides. I cut them out, and then I spray paint it with a mortar color. So I use a camo, Rust-Oleum camo spray paint. And then I would cut out the windows. These are made with cardstock. And I just layer it up together with strips for the windows, and do the same thing with the door. This is from Will's Kits, the top shingles, but I like making them by hand because I would take slits of paper and I would cut them individually and put them on there, just because it looks more organic and you can make it look super realistic that way. But yeah, it's fun to start with smaller buildings. If you're just starting, get a pack of JTT Scenic's brick texture from HO Scale on eBay or something, and get started with just drawing out shapes like with the windows, cut them out, and the doors, and then make everything from by hand. Because like if I price it out, I can make a whole bunch of cottages that look like season 4 style with the stone texture on it. I can probably make 10 or maybe 12 of those, where I would be able to get one scene craft from Hatton's or from Eldridge Sheffield, where one of their newest ones, an expensive one, was like 66 pounds, which is a lot for a resin building. But for that much, I can make a whole bunch of them by just scratch building them, because that's how I started. You know, like we're just using an Afghan quilt for the landforms to making things with paper. I made everything with what I had at home. And if I couldn't, then I just go to the craft store. And that there's something to be said for someone who's starting out. If you're someone who's making buildings like Turtles at Turtles and Thomas, he was making buildings with a mix of plastic and with paper, and they look really good. Mike at the Burry Truck was doing stuff for his Ertl models, and they look fantastic, because my dad made those for me when I was 5 years old the same way. He told me, like, Steven, you're really talented, and one day I would like to see you make buildings that could be just as good as or better than models you get from the store or from the Thomas show. You could do it. And I didn't believe in myself, and I didn't think I could do it until there's a story, like when I was looking at a season 8 episode, the difficult bend, when Thomas is backing up in the yard of Afford, and there's that one building in the corner that has those steps that lead up to the building. It's a little tool shed. It was stone in the railways in the season 4, and you see it in the quarry set, the incline, but it was repainted brick. And I was looking at them, I was like, yeah, I think I could make something like that. How would I do that? So I was like, look at the paper, it was Dad who helped me make it because he would make stuff that I didn't have when I was younger. And so I was looking at it, I'm like, how can I do this? So I just cut the sides from I got one brick colored piece of paper. It was pretty textured. So it created that's it. That's it. That's the building that I made. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
then I cut the doorway from green paper, and I drew on the building. I mean, the windows. I didn't even know how to cut and be able to use a hobby knife because it was dangerous for me at the time. And Dad taught me how to use it. Even a teacher from high school was like, "Steven, this is incredible. Maybe you should use the hobby knife, and I can show you how to do it." And so he was able to give me a couple of spare ones, and Dad showed me how to do it. And he even cut some for me and show me how to do it. And then I could begin making buildings that could have lights on the inside. So,
Sure.
and I was 2006, 2007, I was 13, 14 years old. That's when I first started. And to think like I would look at the Thomas and Friends wiki and Sodor Island fan site by Ryan. Thank you so much if you're watching it, because that provided so many of us the ability to look at the backlog of images. And then Thomas HD Classics and Natford Harbor from Carson Media did those uploads. ADG those guys RC. How do you say it? RCMGC. That user who uploaded them back in the early 2000s in low quality, who was that's how we got the ability to look at them online, because we could look at it, pause it. I have my VHS tape, and I would just study it. Like I could look at something and turning around in my head, because I'm an artist. That's how my brain works. I can make anything by just looking at a picture or a couple of pictures and study it and try to recreate it, because it's like origami to me. Like if someone wants to ask about the process, like I just look at it and start just trying out, because, you know, I think that's where we all start. We learn from looking from observation. I mean, I've got model railroad books. There's RM Web for the UK users. There's blogs and articles of people who scratch builder stuff. It is an incredible resource, the internet. And other than that, I would just show my mom and dad. They would let me know, like, this is cool. Maybe you should paint it a little bit, make it look weathered. And I did. And then I would find, like, I couldn't afford it. And I would find JTT Cynics, like, at Hobby Lobby. It's like, oh, I can get this. It's like, I love experimenting and trying things out, because when you do that, there's so much you can learn by just practicing and asking questions, because that's how I learned from just doing stuff my own, because I'm largely self-taught.
Totally. There's something to be said about like getting started with it. I'm sure like you look at like these model buildings, especially like in Thomas, they're so detailed, and you're like, I want to get started on this, but like it's intimidating. How do you make them look that good? It really is just, you just do it. You just start and then learn as you keep going, and there you go. It's really that easy. Start.
Yeah. You can start small and work your way up, you know, because you can, like, that's how I did with the larger buildings. I would be able to brace it and put together. Here, let me show you. Let me show you a quick example. This is a building that I'm just making and I haven't finished yet, but this is the quarry building that you see that has 3 tracks in it. But this is one that's completely not painted. You can see where the balsa wood is that I've assembled it together. And where it is right here, I've made a separate wall on the corner here so that I can be able to cut it. And when I have the windows put, it will be a solid sheet of paper. And I would cut out the trim so then I can be able to put the window panes on there with paper. And then on the inside, I would cover it with a new piece of textured cardstock, just like I did on this side. I even put little vaulting mounts, like 1, 2, 3. That way everything stays rigid and straight, because it would be very easy for this part to pluck right off because it's pretty fragile. But with the balsa wood, just like with paper, that's how I made that jump from using Basil Basics textured paper from Michaels, Hobby Lobby, or AC Moore, which is closing. Michaels. That's how I make my buildings. I'm making Wellsworth. I've made the buildings, but I need to paint them. So yeah, it is incredible to do. Yeah.
Man, how do you have the time to do all this? Someone just asked that.
Let's
see. Where do you find the time to do all this stuff? It seems like you work really fast too. You said you built Proteus in like a week. Like,
yeah, it's just I give myself time at the very evening when I'm not working. I just think about how I want to make it. I plan it out. If I need to, I'll make a drawing, and then I begin making it. I just start with the sides of the buildings, and I just try working. Like as an example, like if I made a cottage, if I made one whole cottage from the front to back, I made that in an entire day. I just look at the sides, I cut it out, and then I put it together. And that was when I was starting with just paper. But I actually made a whole batch of 3 of them. I made 3 of those cottages, and I actually have this in this post right up here. Let me get it.
Okay.
And when I did that, I actually did them for about a week because my job was pretty busy. So I couldn't spend as much time on it. If I was working on it on the weekend, then I could make it within the 2 days that they had on Saturday or Sunday. But when I did it, I was able to make the cottages that you see at Trinity Manor, where you see the cottages you see from the Seaside Village. I put that together and I disassembled it, put it like I linked it to you in Discord chat. It's a process you can even screen share if you want to. But I've also linked it in our live stream chat.
These guys here?
Yeah.
And those are beautiful.
Thank you.
You're able to do this and you do one of them in like a day, you said?
Well, on average, I could do that when I was younger, but now it would go a bit longer because I think I spent like about 5 workday evenings making them. And I was able to finish all 3 of these in an entire week. So divided by 3, I could be able to do that in a couple of days. Yeah.
Holy crap. I'm convinced you're a wizard. I don't know how you do all that stuff so fast. It takes me fucking, if I were to like work on just like one engine, it would take me several days just to repaint it. I can't even imagine building from scratch.
It's fun. I can't get enough of it. And if I could spend more time doing it, I would do it because I just love doing it, man. You know?
Awesome. That's awesome. It's your passion, you know?
Yeah. Here's a legitimate question from Amaze. Was it expensive to make the narrow gauge models? I'm glad to share it because there's cardstock and the brass craft wire. Like if I just brought Renee's back here, there's just the only expensive thing was the chassis, which is the power functions. There's the motor, there's the IR receiver, there's the battery pack, and then there's the controller. All those was about $100. That's about how much it was getting it offline from the Lego site, getting it in the mail and putting it for one engine. And I have 3 of these, so I can be able to have 3 engines running at one time if I want to. But for pricing it out, it's like about maybe $150 to $175 to make the entire thing. And that's from a budget and craft materials. I mean, there are friends that I have like T-Doc on Twitter who is making incredible stuff from brass and remaking Sir Handle and other stuff people are doing since Rick and Lewis introduced them a couple of years ago. People have been recreating Sir Handle as a basis because some people like T-Doc, they have the ability to get the materials to do something in brass, and it would be better. Like I don't have the materials, I don't have the tools that be able to facilitate that, but I would be able to make it have smoke and lights and have like a smoother motor because again, like I just work with what I have and try to make what I could do because that's a fundamental rule, a fundamental principle when you're model making. You can get any texture or any item and paint it. You can be able to paint any surface to make it look realistic. There's the base painting where if I was painting a freight car, let's take this guy for example. This is Pecco's 7mm gauge Linton and Barnstable van, and you see this in the TV series, and this runs an HO scale track. There's Seth Dave's on Twitter, one of his troublesome truck faces I painted up, and what I did was I just got camo, just my camo spray paint, sprayed the part when I finished assembling it. I sprayed the entire thing minus the wheels. I take them out, put it back on when I finish painting. That's the base color. Same thing with this. I actually added my very own roof to it because I wanted it to look more like TV series from cardstock. Again, paper, right? That's always a signature for me. I always add paper to something. With matte spray paint for the gray primer. Just left it as it is. And then I would dry brush where it's weathered. And if I need to, I got Dave's weathering powders from eBay. They are incredible if you want to get into weathering powders because they really help add a lift to the realism of the model. And that's basically it. Just principal painting techniques. You can make any model look believable if you just take the time to look and study from reference material. Think about the colors that you want and color match them when you go to the craft store and begin trying it out to see what works best for you. And then everything else is trial and error. Because when I was starting, I wanted to make sure you have the right kind of glue because, you know, Elmer's glue wasn't going to be it. Some modeler
Mm-mm.
glues would help. Crazy glue has been like my Swiss Army knife when it comes to gluing stuff on demand, because there are things that I can't glue that wasn't that strong as crazy glue. So I would use that too.
Yep. I use a mix of stuff in mine. I use crazy glue I've used, and then I actually use this like tack glue. It's
Yes.
like it dries really fast, and it's so handy when you're trying to put stuff together. You need like a fast drying glue, and then go over again with crazy glue, and then it'll keep it in place.
Someone did ask, do you have any of your Soto driver and fireman figures with you? Yes, I do.
There you go.
I started remaking from Sculpey clay. But like my friend Jacob at Flying Pringle, he said he was inspired by the blog post I was sharing my Vision Scale Modeler blog, and he made his little wooden clothes hanger figures, and he started making really beautiful, realistic recreations of the figures on the show and commissioning to do specific individuals. I mean, he did Burnett Stone. He did one of the guys on the fandom. It's incredible. So what I do was I just sculpt the parts like the chest, the arms, the hands separately from different color clay. There are 4 colors: the blue, the black, the tan, and the white, I think, because I use it for the collar. Then when I put it together, I put it in the oven, bake it, and then take it out. And then everything else is painted with acrylics and gel pens for like a Sharpie for the buttons, and everything else is painted by eye. And I also have these. They're tiny. They're really tiny because I started when I was younger, and you see them in some of my videos. Here's one of them. This is in season 3 figure, but this is how tiny he is. He's like the size of like a dime. That's how small he is. But here's a driver. And when I started doing this again last year, I added a nose. I was more careful with the way that I was painting it, and I can even mount these on a locomotive. Like let's use Toby because I have him. Here's Toby. I cut out his sides so I can be able to make it open. So if I want to, I can put a figure right inside there, just like Toby's driving it with him. I just need a bit of blue tack to hold them together, but that's basically it. And I can film with those together, and they are great for detailing sets, because when you have a set, what really brings them to life are like the figures. I have a few more. Here's Birdie's driver in gray, right here with the red cap. Yes, we'll do it this time, said the driver. Hooray, call the passengers. And here's a workman. I got a whole bunch of these, but this guy has a mustache. He has his arms put to the side on this one. And I'll share one more because I've always thought this would be really cool. This one has a shunter's pole. It's a piece of craft wire. I have it mounted and glued on the arm. He's reaching over to grab the coupling and put it on the coupler of the engine from the freight cars or for the coach. I love it, man. It's just storytelling with figures tells a lot. Just like I look, here, let me show you this book. I would pore over the illustrations of this book. This is a book that showcases the 1993 era of George Carlin's narrations. My mom got this at Kmart for like a few dollars. And if I look through the pictures here, I would look at pictures like this, where you've got Donald and Dilly at Timoth Hall. And I'm going to study these figures and look closely at them to see, well, let me see if I can make a whole bunch of them and look at all these pages and see what poses, what people, what particular individuals, like the Siddleman, the children, Sir Topham Hatt's grandchildren, the parents and families are on this platform. I love this book. It's one of the things, like if I didn't have the internet, I have books and I just studying, just looking at photographs and looking through stuff like that.
It's awesome. It's amazing how much life just the little figures add to layouts. I don't have any people figures, and I feel like my little layout looks so desolate without them. Just putting a little guy in Toby's cab like you just did. It's amazing what it does for the model.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a good question here for both of us.
Okay.
What was your favorite model to make, and what was the model that was the most frustrating?
That is a fantastic question. In general, I would say like every single model is a new challenge, because there are things I know I could work on, like any of my freight cars, and be able to weather them and paint them and detail them, make them look beautiful, like within a day. And then there are times where I want to make an engine like Peter Sam. And for him, because I need to get back into these usually take me a lot longer to make. When I would figure out how to make the parts, like when I want to make the style tank, I make the very front and as one whole piece. then I wrap it within the inside using Scotch tape, because that's how I did it. I would wrap it on the outside when I was making these when I was younger with my Legos, and they look very crude and very shiny because of the tape. I was like, oh, well, with the buildings, let me put it on the inside. That way you can see the texture and it doesn't take away from the exterior. And that's it. Where you can't see it, it's balsa wood or it is in paint. Now, I actually have Stuart because he's in pieces, but that shows the ability to look at, here's what it looks like from the inner shell and then coming out of it. So,
would you say that's the most frustrating, or?
Probably, yeah, because
Okay.
when I was working on stuff, when I would figure out how to do them for the first time, I just wasn't really sure how to do it. And so what I would do is I'd look at the material, see if I can make it, and then try doing it. But I'm kind of dodging the question because I'm so interested in showing it off. Here's the base, right? Here's the balsa, here's the very top, and here's the
Oh man,
web on the inside, because it fits right over top of the Lego chassis and everything, so it sticks in place.
Mhm.
And if I put the cab on, this is the raw paper, not painted at all.
Wow.
The inside, all that put together, you know. And here's his face. It's not mounted up quite right, but we see testing it out to see, okay, this is the right width, this is the right size, exactly how I want it. And then when I make it, then I go at it. But the most difficult, I wonder, because it's been a while since like I've done like something really challenging. I think just that as example, figuring out how to make something work, that's a challenge, because I would think about what Lego pieces do I need to make it stable and straight upright and not for it to teeter and totter like with Peter Sam and have that trailing truck in the very back, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what about you?
Most frustrating model. I actually have them right here. I'm gonna say this guy, Percy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I call it, this guy is definitely the most frustrating. First of all, I made 2 Percys in my time.
Oh yeah. Was
I
that
mean,
was that done by 2arail.co.uk on Shapeways?
no, this one wasn't. The first one was by Sparkshot, Gavin. This is his shell. The second one, the one I ended up going with, is by what was his name? Like J5500 or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm botching your username. But that's the shell I ended up going with. He was the most difficult because, one, I was not happy with how he looked, and I had to keep like modifying it until he was finally in a place where I was actually really happy with him. And I finally got to that through trial and error of trying a different body, sanding it down to how I liked it, trying out different chassis on him, swapping the wheels on them, until finally I was like, you know what? This is good. I like this. This is Percy. One like salty, like here. This was like the easiest one because this was like all I had to do was paint it red and it was like good to go. And it was done.
Hellgen does a good job with their diesels. I like that you got to do Salty because he's one of my favorite season 6 characters by far.
He's one of my favorite characters, just period. I love Salty. He's one of the few characters I can actually see working in some sort of like realistic version of the island of Sodor, you know, working at Tidmouth Harbor. Audrey never said, you know, there was or wasn't a Tidmouth Harbor pilot, so I assume at a big harbor there would be. So I'm like, why not? Why not make it salty?
I love it, man.
For sure. What would you say of all the models you've made is your favorite one?
Oh, it's so hard to pick because I love every one. I don't know. I like Dodge and Splatter because that was one custom that I've wanted to make for years, and because of the people who made the face, the one that made the face, out of oil from Shapeways.
Oh, yeah.
Diesel 10 Nicholas Diesel 10 TV, who had his channel when he was around, he made those little headlamp pieces. You can still get them. Those little things, if I couldn't do it, then I would commission someone to do it and pay them so they could make the parts and send to me. Otherwise, I would make everything on my own, because I always get that satisfaction of like, I did this, you know, I made this, and then someone helped me on the way. I always make sure that I credit them, because you know, it's scammy when you see someone like, oh yeah, I made this for Handle and it was all me. It's like, oh no, what about all the people who helped with the measurements and give you the ability to have the face printed? You know, it's like crediting people and knowing that this is such a very collaborative community is wonderful, because every single person, like you gave a Tidmouth Harbor version of the backstory with Salty, and that's cool. You have someone who like it was Matt, an enterprising engine when I worked with him, the TCC, who turned me on to Proteus, and I like him as a side character. And
Mhm.
I was on call with you when we were having our Discord call.
Mhm.
I want to talk about this with Matt, enterprising engine, and Mike and Burchuk, because we like telling stories. I
Sure.
want to share, like, I want to make a whole series dedicated to Proteus, working with the engine who was the old Iron Bridge engine, where they would have worked on the same line that was created with the bridge up to
Mhm.
the older ancient sites, and think, what story was that like? You get that when you look at season 5. Like, you got Bertram and that mine that Toby discovers in Toby's Discovery. You've got that branch line that has Oliver going on that station that looks very much like season 1 Toby's station. It's got the
Mhm.
station, it's got the turntable that you see for behind the scenes footage, and you got that shed. You look at the branch line that goes to the smelter's yard. You see the one that Henry goes on with the viaduct and Old Bailey. What engines ran those railroads? What caused their demise, like the Minnesota Railway? Was it the
Mhm.
Depression? Was there a disaster like the old Iron Bridge? Was there a fire? Was some kind of spooky story? What happened to those railways? And it's like,
Mhm.
I love that lore of season, like, now we're talking about season 5. Like, it's like a particular favorite of the fandom. We love season 5 because there's so much mystery about this railroad. So, like, I have a story where Proteus is like given a whole backstory, and like he worked and was lost for legend, and somehow when the boulder accident happened, Rusty looks around and sees the shed that they never saw, and there he is, this whole complex of sheds for this railroad, and he's
Mhm.
preserved and lovingly restored and put together, and he begins telling tales of the railroad. And for you, like, I'll give you a small preview because I've talked about this with Nick. The engine that's in the bog. Nick, you showed me a picture of an engine from New
Yeah.
Zealand, right?
Let me
Who
find
was
that.
discovered. Because I can pull up the picture here. You can get that picture, and I'll share one of the models I was making for the TCC.
Yeah, let me find that really quick. That engine is fucking crazy. Here it
Yeah,
is. Very cool. The engine in New Zealand that got pulled up out of the mud.
yeah. And you wonder, but it's incredible that the bog actually preserved the locomotive, and it looks untouched, minus the rust and the darkness of
Mhm.
the hole. It is incredible to see, right?
Mhm.
So,
Essentially, yeah, it was like buried underground for like 100 years or so, and it's amazing how preserved the how preserved it is. The
yeah,
whole body's still there. All the wheels are still there. It's crazy.
yes, sir, absolutely. And like, I would imagine that as they found the railroad, when they were beginning to Scarlowy Railway, amalgamating it into their system for the quarry lines and putting it up to care of the track, that they would find the quarry coaches from that railroad, and they would gossip. They would be so happy to be restored, and they would Twitter to each other and gossip, like, so thankful, and like the Luna Proteus and there being a mystery engine. And
Mhm.
so I imagine the workmen at day cleaning up the track and looking at the place of the old iron bridge. And you remember, like, if there's a timeline, you see Toby in the flood. The water is really, really high because of the dam and with all the rain that happened in the mountains at that time during the season. Kind
Mhm.
of imagine the same timeline. So when it's lower, it's high when the trucks fall into the bog, and you have the story of the engine falling into the bog too.
Mhm.
When it's lower, the workmen see a funnel, a rusted dome, and the cab, and their eyes glow up because the older men remember, there it is, there's that engine. And so they dig it up and they find, like, this is the engine, and it's almost completely restored. We may or may not have the face, but the point is, the engines find it. Then Proteus remembers, like, oh my goodness, this is the engine that I worked with, and all the engines were so scared because, like, with Millhauser, the name that was the Ryan at the Soda Island fan site gave him the name Millhauser, the
Oh, yeah,
engine.
yeah, that's right.
And they were really good two redubs, a remake of like a horror version of Duncan Gets Spooked that was really cool, and Ghosts and Magic that you can still find on SoundCloud. And they gave them the engine the name Millhauser. Well, anyway, they discover him, and all the engines are scared because they place him and the boulder as like these scary things that made the line so concerning, like you see season 5. And so Proteus is like, this engine I worked with, and this disaster happened, and it caused the demise of my whole railroad, but it happened. This is a ghost story, and you all should wear, like, look at my magic lamp. was a big lamp, and that was a big cause of all the lore of the stories behind me and the magic lamp.
Mm-hmm.
This becomes like a story about overcoming fear and imagination and becoming brave, where Duncan overcomes his courage over bridges, right? And same thing with the engine. So in my mind, when Duke talks about it, like he's restored, like, engines. The Reverend Audrey talked to me about this engine from South America. And you remember from the Duke, the Lost Engine. In the very beginning in the book, the Reverend talks about this engine that was discovered in South America, where there were a hornet's nest growing in its firebox, a tree was growing from a smokestack, and they restored her and brought her to working the conditions. It's like, well, if they did it for this engine and it had many years of working life, we can probably do it with this engine too. And so to keep it short, he gets restored. He sees that he's alive and he sees all these engines. He's a beautiful engine. And then he has a fear of bridges because of the old iron bridge. He imagines that death wasn't even real. He fell into the bog. And the story that he has that really happened was different from Rusty's tale. And so then you get to see him work with Duncan. And it's Duncan who overcomes his fear about this engine and helps him overcome his fear of bridges. And so, like, you have Proteus, you have this engine, and when this, you've got Sir Robert Normanby funding the ability for this engine to get restored with Duke. And so it's like there's a celebration. And like with Proteus, he's an ancient symbol of the Greek and Roman gods. Like Proteus is a Roman god. Well, think about the engine, Phoenix. The Phoenix rising from the ashes and becoming to life again. That would like Stepney Bluebell engine. This engine will be named Milhauser the Phoenix. That would be his nickname. And so what I imagine the very end of the series would be like seeing Milhauser pulling a train with Duncan, the slate train, over the Iron Bridge. And they look at each other like, are you ready to cross this bridge? Duncan's like, yeah. And they cross over. And that's the story of this parody ends. I would love to create a series like that. You know what I mean? It's like, what would I love to do with these characters, having fun with story, and just being able to go with making something and telling stories with it. You know what I mean?
It's taking elements that were introduced throughout the show. Like you got Proteus that was introduced in season 9, the Lost Engine in season 5. It's like taking all these elements and piecing together this really coherent narrative that like creates like this whole lore that's like alluded to in the show, but not really dwelled upon. So it's like, I don't know. I think that's a really great idea. You have all these ancient like narrow gauge engines that were like lost throughout time.
Like Bertram.
From Proteus, the Ghost Engine. It's like, yeah, what were their stories? Maybe they were all connected somehow. So it's like, I think that's a cool idea. You are the guy to make that, to visually realize that, I think.
Yeah, it's not perfect, and I think whenever you get into something, you learn what works and what doesn't work with talking to your friends, your circle of trust and feedback, and just getting like, how would I make this the best that I could, and then just rolling with it, because you're not like, I tell myself a lot because I've modeled for a really long time. But even when I would create the things I've done on Twitter and with YouTube, and as an artist, I can recommend you guys who are starting out and who are creating content. Nothing's ever going to be perfect for the first time. Someone look at my mom's like, oh my God, that's so perfect. And I really appreciate that. But when I started, I was just like anybody else. I'm not just a big user. I'm a kid who loves Thomas, who loves model making, and I try making things with my hands. And I have a passion for it that's very close to my heart. And whenever I would go to any of the meetups that I've had last year, like with Ed's Trains in Strasbourg, or my friend Matt Mashad and at Enterprising Engine, and Turtles and Thomas at Trough at Huntington with the Shine Time meetup, I brought my models with me. I was like, look, you can touch it. You can see it. This is how I made it. And I'd be glad to share with you how I did it. And we ask questions. And I love supporting creators and fellow artists and the people in the community. I always see people in an equal playing field. It's like, it's up to you to create what you want. And usually it's like our imagination, our time, our budget. And that's the dirty secret. It's like with art. No one has enough time or enough money to do everything they want, like making a big dream layout. That's what inspired me to make simple models and making things live so I can take something out and put back again so nothing's permanent. It's also cost effective and working with a budget. You don't have to spend $1,000 on a really expensive model if you don't want to. You can, like Trent at D199 has a great rant that I've listened to him have with Sidekick Jason and Enterprising Engine when they were going to a convention together. It was talking about you can have a Bachman model and you can take it and tell stories with it, and you don't have to customize it if you don't want to. And you don't have to listen to people like, oh, put the handrails, put all that. It's like, what are you doing? Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has the ability to do that. And when you do, it's an incredible feeling, because even when you make a mistake and you screw up on a model and you're like, oh, that's always like the worst feeling. But like, I keep on going and I just try to do the best that I can. And if I don't, I like get anywhere, then I'll just talk to my friends. And usually like those are the group of people who came from my subscribers and the people who my YouTube channel. And so many of those people, like Ty at Sudrian Afro, he was the first person that I've met in the fandom that I messaged with the YouTube messaging system and then wrote the emails. There was Caleb Train, there was Isaiah Ferguson and HK Porter, there was Dylan May at, you remember him for Toby's Windmill and Fancy Fiddlesticks, and now he's Mavis M on Twitter. So those guys are some of my earliest friends, and I would watch you, and like last week we had our very first call. That was incredible. And so many guys like who are fans of my work, like Jacob, he's like, Steven, I got inspired to do my figures because I looked at your blog. Or someone who's in the wooden railway community who told me, it's like, man, I love your color grading. I put in my videos and I really improved as a creator. Like, that really means a lot to me. And to me, that is what it's all about. There's something more powerful than the joy that you have or the passion that you share with other people. And that is so contagious. And I just love talking about how much we love trains and model making and making things from hands and just connecting and geeking out over trains. You know, it's fun.
Totally, dude. It's nice that we have this sort of community where we can do this, you know. I don't know about you, but no one near me is like into trains and anything like that. I've never met anyone in my area that's had that same interest. It's great that we have all these like people online that we can come and connect with, and makes you realize just how small the world is. Like, for like the first time ever, was it last year? There was like that huge con where like all the fans came together and like met. Was that last year or was that the year before? I don't remember. But the fact that like happens now, it's amazing.
It's incredible because like last year I found for the first time that like started mentioning my friends and began making new ones from that group. Like the Busted Buffer group. You've got Nicholas. You've got Lucas. You've got Brendan 10. You've got Caleb Train, who I've been friends with since the TCC. And I was talking with them, and they were like in the United States, and there's Strasburg, the Strasburg Railroad. I look at my map, and it's like, that's 2 hours from where I live, because I'm in Maryland. That's the state where I live. I'm in Hagerstown, Maryland, and that's in Washington County, just western part of the Maryland state, right in the very corner near the Pennsylvania, West Virginia border. And it's a 2-hour commute for where I live. I gotta go. So it's like, I could never travel or do some of the things I wanted to when I was younger because of money, right? You come older enough to be able to travel on your own, and it's working hard and saving enough money to do those kind of things. So I budgeted my trip. I scheduled the hotel that I wanted to stay in. I stayed at the Carriage House Inn in Strasburg, booked it, everything, filled my tank, went, and I had like the best meetup. Like, oh my God, there's Ed's Trains, there's Zara King, there's Adam at Blue Tank. It was incredible. And some of those guys are like some of my closest friends because we really just enjoyed going and hanging out together, because we traveled in number 90, we traveled in 475. And when 611, the Norfolk 611 came to town, that was mind blowing, because that locomotive was one of my favorite locomotives growing up that's American. And I got to see it in person. I got to ride behind it in the coaches. I even paid to have the experience where they lit up the firebox and prepare the engine of the day and watch it happen like up close and get in the cab, sit in the cab seat and look out the window and watch Thomas going by. Dude, I had my first Jab with Thomas experience last year. And I found Zio. He and his fiance were walking by us. And I was like, dude, hey, how are you doing? How's the lucky tug? I was like, whoa. And it's like, meetups are incredible. And as a first timer last year, if you ever get a chance to do it, because when you get to meet people in person, you get to hang out with them, you get to spend overnight at a hotel. You get to have lunch together. You get to travel together.
Sure.
It's an incredible experience. And
For sure.
Time is an event that happens in Huntington, Pennsylvania, and we're doing a show where it's on a weekend, and people can come on 1 or 2 days and look at the display and see like all of us who are going to go there. I just have to get permission from my work to go, but I'm considering going because all of my friends are going to be there, and I really want to experience like getting to meet all of my friends. So that's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I remember the first time I met Kevin, the first time I met Ricky and Lewis, like these people that I've talked to for years, like they live on a completely different side of the country with me, but these people that like I've been talking to for years that were also into like trains and Thomas, the same interest that I had that I didn't share with anyone else in real life. Meeting them in person for the first time, that was such a surreal, happy experience, you know.
Which
Meeting people, like you talk to every day. It's
yeah.
cool.
You mentioned it in your live streams, but you said you were interested in coming to Strasbourg. I would love if you would come out and head with me at Ed's Trains and just.
I would freaking love to. Honestly, I really would love to. I'm considering like Strasbourg is such like an important place for like Thomas fans in the United States. I'm shocked I've never been there. I've never been there in my entire life. I've been to the East Coast twice, and both times I didn't go to Strasbourg. So,
and when you go, you want to come back. You don't want to leave. It's like you're there and you're here for the whole weekend. It's like I want to come back, and that's why I did it. I just budgeted my time and budgeted how much I can go. And if it was like one day during the weekend, I was able to go. And then I stayed at Brennan's house because I just couldn't drive back. It was so late. So I stayed 2 extra days. And I got to go meet at Ed's Trains at his apartment. I got to meet Tim at Zara King. And I looked at his model of Farquhar Station and got to talk with him and work with Adam at Blue Tank with the smoke machine. It was a stupid amount of fun. And some of those guys are some of my closest friends because every day we go on our chat, we share what we're doing during the day, and we just love talking and just bonding together. And when we schedule time to meet up, we do it. We have a good time, and if there's a problem, we work it out and just have a fun time, man. Because that's kind of like how you build friendships. And it's like whenever you meet me in person, I will always want to come and to show you what I do and to show you what I like and get interested in support what you do because that's what I like. I mean, I like supporting artists and creators, and whenever I get a chance to, I love meeting people in person because it's magical. It's you and I having a talk over the phone. It would be the same thing like we would if we were in person. Like, dude, you know, and talk with anyone who was younger. Look, when I was at Edison at the train convention, the Great Train Show, there was a young kid and his mom who recognized me in my channel. And he had one of those smaller Railway Series books, and I autographed it. And I got to talk with him, and his mom was telling him seriously he'd like to be an animator. Is there any advice you would like to give him? And the little kid, I think he was about about in his teenage years, he was very attentive. He listened. He was paying attention. You could tell he was really engaging with you. And when I talked with him, I really had a good time. And then his mom took a selfie with him and I together. It was just, you know, I'm a peace-loving man. That's why you see me like this in the photographs because I love people. I love talking about process and engaging and talking. It's fun. It's really, really fun to do that, you know, and it's something I recommend anyone to do.
That's great. You, see, we're just talking about Strasbourg. You haven't been to the UK yet, right?
No, not yet.
What's the first railway you would go to when you go to the UK? Yeah, I think you go one day.
Hands down, it would be the Tillellen Railway, the very first stop. And, you know, it's like a tradition, right? That's the very first railroad ever, like with the Reverend Audrey and the Skarloey Railway and writing about it. He was a volunteer. He was a volunteer in the railroad. And because of that, with the influence he got, it was enough attention he was able to bring to people and all the efforts of the volunteers and the people who worked to be able to make it stay. And the Bluebell Railway as an affiliate railroad, that was incredible. And for the fact that happened because indirectly of the Reverend Audrey, that tipped me. It really is incredible to know that. So I would go to the Tillon Railway, then I would stop over and go to the Festiniog Railway, Welsh-Han Railway, and then after Snowdon, the Snowdon Mountain Railway, and go and visiting Snowdonia and taking some walks and sampling the countryside. Sure. Then we'll go over to Cornwall and look at the landscape, and go to Bluebell in the south and travel on those locomotives. And then I would go to the Lake District because I've always loved Cumbria and the Lakeside and Haverthwaite Railway that was shown on some of the live railroad film sections of the Nitrogen era. They would do sections with Mr. Perkins. They would do stuff with that railroad, and I watched it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
engine, repulse with the Giesel funnel. She has the same sort of funnel like Peter Sam, and yet she's an austerity engine and standard gauge. And go to Raven Glass and Estill Railway. I would do that. Those are
Raven was fun. That was a fun one. They were all fun. Oh my god, I've been to a number of them. There's a few on your list I have not been to, but they're all just so fun.
yeah.
Vestiniog, it's hard to say what my favorite of the narrow gauge railways is. The Taliflin Railway has just so much charm, and there's so many people there that like we know that volunteer there, like Luke Ryan and Max Davies and Nimmo and all the Mads, all them. It's just so great. I'll never forget the nicest people I met when I was in Wales were the people on the Taliflin. Everyone there was so kind. The lady that works the gift shop, we ended up talking to her for like over half an hour just because she was so friendly and wanted to talk to everyone. We go outside to look at Dalgok because he was in the station, and the driver was just like, "Hey, do you guys want to like hop in the cab to take a picture?" We're like, yeah. Something to be said about that. They have like the nicest people around.
That's usually what people say when they come to the railroad and experience the place. Like, shout out to Explosive Cookie, who's in the chats. I think he's Luke Ryan on Twitter. He volunteers there and works with the engines. Thank God for people like him and Edit as Trains, who's at Strasbourg, because for the guys who are working on railroads, they're like the new generation of people who are going to be driving our trains and restoring our railroads. Because like I talked to Ed, and when Ed, for example, was telling me like, dude, it'd be so cool to work on at Strasbourg Railroad. And me and my friends like, bro, do it, because he had the ability to do it. He has experience with physical labor and his knowledge of trains. Like, and he started working at the freight yard. And just recently, he's been able to work at the rail yard and get trained with working with the steam engines, because he was talking with Cardi at Cardi Cinema, who's doing the Unlikely Fam documentary, which you and I are going to be interviewed in the documentary. We haven't been done yet because we needed to figure out our life schedules and everything like that yet.
Whatever going on, yeah, totally.
Exactly. But it was like, dude, I'd love to do it where like one day I would like to envision myself riding into the sunset with driving the day out with Thomas from Strasbourg. That's his goal. And I support 100% for that, because for someone to be able to do that or be a conductor, like he's going to be in that position. It's like, hey, Mr. Conductor, we're going to just have a good time, because I've wanted to see him progress and grow, as so many of my friends that have been in the fandom, because it's brought so many people together. And let's talk about Twitter. When I jumped on there, when people were freaking out that I was coming back, it is giving me the ability to connect with such a global group of people, because I could talk with Trent and Enterprise at D109, who's in Australia. I can talk with you because you're in you were in San Francisco, right? Are you still there working your job? Yeah. I can talk with one, and they're for everywhere. I mean, there is incredible how global our community really is. And I really appreciate being able to connect with people online. It's wonderful.
For sure, yeah. For sure, dude. Absolutely. Luke Ryan, by the way, wants me to mention something. Yeah. You mentioned you want to go to the Lakeside and Haverfordwest Railway. It's actually Thomas Cannon. It was in Thomas and Victoria.
That's right. That's exactly right. That was the story that Christopher Audrey wrote. And in the illustrations, you see the way it looked in the old days, those stations. The Furness Railway was the railway that went along the very bottom of the Lake District and Cumbria and would go up to where Barrow and Furness is. That railroad was the Furness Railway. And then later it would become amalgamated to the Big Four, the LMS, and BR. That's where you go to the island of Sodor. That's the place where Albert and Victoria lived. That's incredible. I've always loved the illustrations of that book. It was a beautiful story.
I've actually been, believe it or not, to Barrow and Furness. I actually have. When I went on our backpacking trip in 2017, we were in Wales for a week, and then we took the train up from Wales up to Lake District to go to Ravenglass. And along the way, we had to change trains at Barrow and Furness to get on the train that goes on that line. And I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to go to the station, the Thomas station. And then I get there and it's like, oh, it's just a normal train station. I don't know what I was expecting, but
when Ed as trainers would talk to me and Jaden at 24/7, he works with Ed too, and he's another friend of mine in the community who is an animator for the TCC. Because he lives there, he works with Ed at the Strasbourg Railroad. Ed would tell me about his experience with traveling with another friend of his when he went to England and he went on the sprinters that connect the railway that you can go like a bus, you can like the rail cars, you can hop in, go from Carnforth all the way along that little place by Barrow and Furness and go to Ravenglass past Milham and go to those places and how magical it is when you're there, because those are the places that the Reverend wrote about. And that's just like when I'm in Strasbourg, like feeling nostalgic where Britt Allcroft went there with the David Thomas events that ever first happened for the 10-year anniversary video that would later lead to the success with being able to include it with the Magic Railroad. That is amazing to me. And when I'm there, I feel like, well, when I was July 6th, the first meetup that I went with the group of people, the larger group of people that I had, because I'm in Isaiah Ferguson, HK Porter. That was my very first meetup with someone in the fandom, because we were the TCC. He did music for my Skarloey Railway compilation with my Skarloey models. Stupid amount of fun. We met each other when we were in Baltimore, because I went to school in Baltimore, the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore. I majored in animation. Mm-hmm. The Strasbourg meetup was a larger group of people that I began meeting more people from the fandom for the first time. Also TCC members, the Busted Buffer group, and edited trains, etc. When we were in the Hilo Dolly observation car, because that car was featured in that movie with Louis Armstrong back in the 60s, right? We're traveling in number 90 is pulling backwards tender first along the railroad, where she goes up past Groff's to the top station and runs around the train to go back to Strasbourg. When it was pulling the train, half of the sky was completely sunny. And on the other side, there was a big storm brewing and gathering clouds and rainfall. I kid you not, when we were going through the grove, there were fireflies, there were June bugs growing all around the drivers of number 90 when she was driving her big coupling rods and wheels. And it was like, oh my God. It's like we felt like we were in the Magic Railroad, like the railroad's getting its energy back. It was amazing. And I was starting to cry because like I've always wanted to experience traveling behind steam locomotives. I only did that once, and that was seventh birthday. My mom and dad took me and my brother to the Maryland Scenic Railroad that's in Cumberland, Maryland. That was the first experience that I had riding with the train. It's a beautiful railroad, especially in the fall. Mm-hmm. But after so many years, like 20 years since then, and going on Strasbourg, my body felt like it was magnified, where it was glowing. My childhood self was coming out, because like it is an incredible feeling when you're in the presence of a live steam locomotive. It's running and it's alive and beautiful. It's like, it is an incredible feeling. And so like when you're in England, when you are in any country, when you get the privilege to experience trains that are steam powered in person, it is amazing. It's huge.
I remember the first like British steam engine specifically that I saw in steam was Flying Scotsman. And it was at I think it was Paddington Station. I had just gone to the UK for this backpacking trip, and the guy that was coming to visit me, Nebbles One, Ben, he was coming the next day, so I had this whole day to myself, and I had found out that Scotsman was coming to doing a rail tour out of Paddington Station. So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go see it. Why not? I don't have to ride the train. Yeah. So I went to the station, and oh my God, that feeling of like euphoria I got when I saw it being pulled in by the diesel, and there it was, just this mighty beast in steam right there. It was, you're right. There's nothing better than freaking being in the presence of a live steam engine. Like, it's one thing when you're in the museum and they're just like they're static. It's like, okay, they're cool, but they're not alive.
Yeah,
they're not alive and moving. It's such a freaking experience. So
yeah. I would love to see Flying Scotsman and even Tornado in person. That would be incredible. And I really like that many engines like them are getting a chance to run on mainline steam. Like you look at Great Britain, they still have the ability to do that in some places. Where you look at Amtrak and in the United States, it's almost impossible to do that anymore. Like everyone was trying to get the ability to take in Visiting 611 and traveling behind her, because after that, she's right now in the North Carolina Transportation Museum at the Roundhouse. And I think, for far as I know, she's going back to the museum at Roanoke, because you can't get an engine to run on the type of railroads they've got with the main lines, just because of the management system, and people are upset about it. But like one day, I would love to see 611 do like she did like just a few years ago when she was driving around the countryside in Virginia and in Pennsylvania to be able to do more stuff like that. Because the more interest you have and the more money that you have funneled in, channeled into preservation, the more you'll be able to get to do with it. Because I'd love to see more people like us, both men and women. Like Callie, a Fluke girl who was in the chat earlier, she worked in the Tweedsea Railroad. I forget Callie. I think she was a fireman, and it's incredible. I mean, you know, during the war, women replaced the role of drivers and firemen, whoever were going off to be on the front lines. It's incredible. You know, there's something for everyone on the railroad. You know, when it comes to being Thomas fans and railway buffs and model makers, there's something for everybody, really.
It's like, you know, I'm in San Francisco, and there's not a lot of like train related stuff here, unfortunately. I mean, there is like railway history. Like there used to be railroads across the city. I get that stuff's interesting, but there's no like heritage lines where one can like go and volunteer and like run a train or just clean up. You know, if there was something near here, I'd be doing it in a heartbeat.
I still get very tickled the fact that that wharf that Flying Scotsman was abandoned at for a while and picked up by, was it Sir Robert McAlpine?
Mhm.
And that to me is incredible too, because that has its own history and it's abandoned and left around where you probably walked in front. It's like, gosh, Flying Scotsman was here. Hi, Luke. How's it going, Luke? Can you hear us?
We have a surprise visitor.
Hello.
Luke Ryan. Speaking of preservation, we have a Tally Flynn volunteer here in the chat with us.
Hello.
Hello.
Speaking of McAlpine, Stephen, on UK TV, there was the Great Model Railway Challenge, which I was on. It was a lot. In the first series, it was filmed at William McAlpine's private estate. My God, what a collection of railway memorabilia and everything. They actually, Flying Scotsman's tyres from the wheels are still there and on display in the giant garden. So I just thought that's a good thing to bring up, because a bit of it was what he was wearing when he bought them. Once they were retired, he kept them. And the cowcatcher from the US trip is there as well, and that was amazing to see.
It's such an for him coming in the tour days of traveling across the country, because the American bell and the headlight and all American necessities of being able to run, it's so interesting. And the fact that it happened is incredible.
Wait, Luke, say that again. Where is this at again? This is at
it's Sir William McAlpine, who sadly passed away the other year. His essentially his estates. He has got his own railway. Standard gauge. He has a couple of industrials that work on it, and it's got one of the steepest gradients in British, like in the UK, potentially world. It's like, I think it's definitely it's the UK, definitely Europe, maybe. It's like a 1 in 14 climb. But yeah, so that's there. It's near Reading, which is further down south. But yeah, there's so much there, and he does open days every now and again, but it's mainly a private railway. Yeah, but yeah, as I say, Flying Scotsman's cowcatcher from the US tour and Australian tour is still. It's just like propped up against the wall. It's just there. It was so weird because I was just like, that's the cowcatcher.
I have a new bucket list item on my. I have to.
I'm sure if you message or email them, if you say you're coming over from the States and you might be in, they might work something out for you. Who knows?
That's cool. And this is, I assume it's run by like his family now, right?
Pardon?
The people that run the railway, the estate, his family. Who run
but they have a team of volunteers as well who live locally, and they come and keep it all going.
That's good to know.
They're all lovely as well. The museum, he's got a museum. It's full of everything. You know, the Terence Cuneo paintings, the railway paintings. He got a lot of the originals there, which are amazing.
Yeah. Another new bucket list spot.
It's amazing.
Look, I'm really glad you're able to come on the stream, because I would love to, when I go to the Southern Railway, hook up with you and get the check.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, same goes for you, Nick, because I've already said it to you. Come over, I will show you around the shed and everything more, because you've come a long way to come and see the railway. I've done it for other people. I'll happily do it here as well. It's such a great place, genuinely. And I am biased 100%. If you could not tell from the poster on the wall, it's so good, and I am biased, but you keep wanting to go back. Yeah. And I know exactly who the woman you were talking to in the shop is, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be Kez. She's a big Audrey fan, as are quite a few people as well. Nice. Yeah, no, they're lovely. Everyone's so lovely. It just I'm really missing it because obviously all the lockdown over here.
Yeah.
It's closed, and if you could, I'm going to plug it because I can. If you can give anything to the Taliflin during this trying time, they've got a funding because they need money to keep alive.
Yeah,
it's the first time in 155 years they've not started a season on time. I'm pretty sure, or not opened.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And depending on how long this goes on for, it might be the first 4 years since the railway opened that it's not run, which is insane.
It's really. Nemo was just telling me about this earlier. WR Duke Dog. Yeah. He was saying this is like the first time ever in 200 years that there is not a running steam engine in England.
Oh my God, that's not. That's
every steam engine's not running right now. None of the railways are open.
I imagine there are days when you get it, occasional days, but this is probably the longest period because the Taliflin by this point is usually operating nearly 7 days a week. A lot of the other railways are nearly operating 7 days a week. So, my Lord, that is a weird thing to think about. Actually,
200 like the steam engine was a thing. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in it's 10 years until anniversary of the first passenger railway opening, and that'd be 200 years since the first passenger railway.
Oh yeah,
that's insane.
In 2030, it's weird, and then
it's crazy. Oh my God,
weird.
Crazy time we're living in, boys. Crazy time.
Yeah.
Well, look, where the main topic of the stream was talking about models. You are also a model train enthusiast yourself. Care to have anything to share with us?
Oh no, I'm not prepared at all.
Oh, okay.
It is 2:30 in the morning. Quarantine's going great. I'm currently working on the Skyleri railway sheds. This is my third attempt. The first one I made a long time ago, and it wasn't good at all. Second one, better, but I knew I could do better, and this is the do better. It's a lot more structurally sound at the minute.
I was showing you guys earlier about how to be able to structure. So you're using Will's kits?
These are Will's, yeah. It's just the plastic sheeting you can get.
Very easy, very straightforward.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now,
if you're starting, it's great to be able to transition because it's fun to work with because you got texture and whether it look like real brick.
So, I get in a pack, you get 4 sheets about this big, and it's about 13 centimeters by 7 centimeters ish. You can do so much. Like I say, this is built out of some Will's slate kits.
Right. Oh my God.
Really good. That's good.
That's just out of various bits of the Wills and the cardboard tiles made out of cereal box.
Rock on, man. I'm shingles too from paper, just like that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then just paint it up. What I usually do is paint it with the color you want in between the bricks fully, and then dry brush your top coat on. So I keep going off the thing, but yeah, so that's Cosnikirn, first station outside of Craven's Gate.
Beautiful.
Well, here's the building. I haven't shown before, but on the side, this is the Basel Basics paper. It's like a wood grain, but this is when I started really getting better with my buildings before I jumped into using plastic because the roof also is made from just slits of cardstock paper.
It works
from the very bottom all the way to the top, and that was from a British model railroading book that I got from the library that I borrowed when I was in college. And I looked at the process, see how you can do it, and it was very simple. So that's all I did. I layered it, and after the glue dried, I painted it with gray and dry brush to be able to make the seams look pretty realistic. This top could be removable, so I can put a light in it inside. And on the inside, there we go. You can see like the A beams on the inside, like that.
Yeah, that's the next step for me with this. That's
Beautiful.
what I'm doing. And then the roofs are next. Yeah, no, I always find myself doing stuff like that, like making sure I leave stuff removable in case I want to add stuff, because I know I'm never going to be happy with my models. All of my coaches don't have glued on roofs because I'm like, I'm going to change stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll go and grab some bits. I just need to take my headphones off.
Sure.
I've never attempted to make a building yet. I've made like the Metcalf kits. Like I have like the standard good shed, stuff like that, the retaining walls. Those are pretty easy. They're just card kits, but I haven't attempted a building yet.
Dude,
Like,
I really love the composite from Photoshop that you did of the recreating the viaduct scene from Rusty and Stepney, and you got the moon.
oh yeah.
That is gorgeous.
Thank you. Oh my god, that did that so long ago. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite Photoshop jobs I've done. It was made using all those Metcalf kits. And it was like a Band-Aid Stepney or
I
something.
have my box, my Scarloey Railway liveried box.
Perfectly on brand.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Show us what's in the magic chest, Luke.
No, sorry. The man himself, Scarloey.
There he is.
Beautiful.
No, this is in like 1930s run-down condition with a wooden door stuck on the side and
Yeah.
water staining the tank. So this is kind of Old Faithful, the story where he does in his spring and is limping home.
Oh yeah.
To take over from Sir Handel. That's kind of era when he's not being used and completely run down. If you can probably guess by the liveries, I'm doing mine all railway series. That kind of,
Me too.
oh yeah, like I say, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but one of the earliest models I did of a Scarloey engine was back in secondary school, so high school. God, how old was I? It was like year 9, maybe. Year 9 or 10. So, oh god, I'm trying to wrap my brain now. I'd have been 13 or 14, and I did a Railway Series Duncan out of card using your blueprints. As like reference, because it was like one of the assignments was like look at artists and do stuff, and I did like a model of because I'm a Doctor Who fan, TARDIS interior. I did like a big one, but it was huge. I did that, and I looked at like the production designer, and then I had the plans of Duncan and some of your work in there as well, because that's one of the earliest things I did was one of Duncan, and now I've got even smaller Duncan.
There he is.
Cool. I love that, man. Very, very appealing. Just the size, the way that you got him.
The camera's not really focusing, but it does have a little 6 in there.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, my webcam's
unpopular opinion. I know. I bet a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I prefer Duncan in red. I think it looks much better in red.
I was raising a gun there at you, then, Nick. I was very close. You said the right thing.
Like for in blue, Peter Sam I prefer in green, but Duncan, give me red. Yeah. I want him in red.
I think the great thing about Peter Sam and Sir Handel is that both colours are correct. Like, because obviously it's mid-Sodor in Railway Series, and it's nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's the Renaissance as well. The Scholar Renaissance are made out of Batman ones with the full repaint and modifications and stuff.
Proper full like that.
Really cool. Hey Nick, I wanted to show you a picture because
Duncan, go on, man.
Duncan always reminded me of the narrow gauge engines from Java who were painted that exact similar same kind of color.
Is it the O and K ones, perchance?
The Orstein and Koppel, yes.
Yeah.
They're absolutely gorgeous. And I like...
Oh, yeah, these guys. Yeah. Let me
I have... what you call it?
These guys here.
Not ones I was thinking of, but still O and K, yeah.
You've got tank engines with the little wheels. Show them the last one that I sent you because you can see the wheels on the side. You've got both an outside framed and a wheeled coupling rod engine. It's incredible. They're like little dainty machines, and it's like if Duncan had like a Big World, Big Adventure dream sequence, I would imagine him with his cousins in Java. This is so sick to me. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
one thing that I always kind of have in my head, it's not official, it's just like I think I always kind of like to think Duncan was in the yellow before he came to the Scarloey. Same way Peter Sam and Sir Handel were in the TV colours. I like to think Duncan was in yellow at the factory or wherever he worked.
Yeah. I never really thought of that. What the hell Duncan looked like before he came?
Because if you look at Douglas on the TR, when it previous it was in like a pale blue, and originally green, and then painted into the dark green when it came to the TR. And I feel like Duncan might be yellow before he comes to the Scarloey.
You know what, Luke? That's canon now. He's yellow.
That's how it works.
It wasn't written by Audrey, so you know what? It's up to the imagination. It's canon now.
Yeah, no, just speaking about Talcott and stuff, like one of the first time I went, because I'd never been as a kid because we weren't, didn't have enough money to go places. I was always reading about it in the back of the books and in other books. It's like, oh, the Scarloey Railway is based on this. I always wanted to go, and I never did until 2016 when I was 17. And what a day! I was there for a few days and genuinely lovely. I bought probably my first Railway Series books in years because there'd been a period where I'd got out of the show, sold everything, as you do when you go to high school, and people are like, oh, you like trains, stupid stuff. But I came back to it, and God, I'm sad I ever left it behind. And so I bought my first Railway Series books in so long. Favorite Very Old Engines. And I was sat in the Corris Saloon coach, which has got so you've got like two passenger compartments, and then the middle is just kind of open. There's a wall behind you, there's a bench, and then there's no door, and you can just look out into the scenery. And it was like the last train of the day. It was gorgeous weather, and I was the only one in the coach, just sat there reading Very Old Engines, going up the line on my own, and my God, it was gorgeous. And I've just sent you the picture, Nick, if you want to put that up, because I literally found it. I've just found it. And that kind of sealed the deal for me. And I was like, I'm coming back. But yeah, as you can see, there no door or anything like that. You just sat on a bench, and it was gorgeous. That's so special.
Awesome.
Wow.
And that day as well, I also burned myself on Dolgok trying to get a picture. Worth it. And I'm pretty sure I've still got a mark somewhere.
The first time I went to the Tallyflume was in, believe it or not, 2011. It was a long time ago. It was I always wanted to go to England. It was in high school at the time, and my grandparents, as like a 18th birthday / almost done with high school kind of gift, they promised they would take me somewhere, anywhere I wanted to go, and they would take my sister anywhere she wanted to go. She ended up going to Italy, but of course I chose England. And so we went to England in 2011, November. I spent my 18th birthday there, which was great. And we actually went to see the Tallyflume Railway. And of course it was November, so none of the trains were running. But my grandma...
No trains today.
What'd you say?
No trains today.
No trains today. So we, my grandma actually got in contact with them and said, hey, we're bringing my grandson over. He's a big train fan. He loves this railway. Is there any way we could like see the engines or like just arrange something? Like, of course you can. So we went over, and I don't know if he's still alive. I'm hoping he is.
Do you have any pictures of the guy?
I do.
Oh, Tony. I'm sure we've talked about this before. Did he have like a red blazer on? Yes. With like official. Yeah, he's still with us. Don't worry. Yeah, no, I know him. He still does tours for people, and he's usually one of the hosts on the Victorian trains.
That's wonderful.
So
he's still kicking.
Still alive or not? I don't.
Yeah, still
kicking. I have a picture of him, but I have a picture of me with Dolgok in 2011 with my absolutely terrible hair.
The old red livery as well. Yeah.
Well, that was great. He gave us like a whole tour of Pondra sheds, and it was great.
Oh yeah, no, Pendre is amazing. Just kind of like as a thing, because it is the longest continuously used engine shed in the world. And when you're volunteering, that you just get to work in it every day, and it's just like this has been here longer than I will ever live. And it's still being used as an engine shed.
It's still there.
With the two original engines that it was built for. It's so rare that you'll ever find somewhere like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's the small things that make it so special.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, how much I really do appreciate the fact, like, it is incredible to me that we have two working locomotives who are from, like, the 1860s, like, just as old as the engines who worked in the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway in India, who pulled the top.
Oh, I so want to go there.
It's actually one of my favorite teas, because I started drinking tea with my mom when we would watch British comedy on PBS, like, as time goes by, Keeping Up Appearances, like Are You Being Served, Last of Summer Wine. We would watch it and drink tea. And
I adore Last of the Summer Wine.
Yeah, it is like Darjeeling tea is like the wine of teas because it has such a woody taste, but it's delicious. I have one cup every single morning. It's awesome. It's like my mom.
Just quickly, I've had a question in the chat from Alex Greener asking how old I was. They thought I was about 30. I don't know whether to feel flattered or offended. I'm 21.
Well, you're younger than I am. I said
yeah.
Yeah, no, I started volunteering at my local line back home for the first in 2015, 2016. So 2015. So I was 16 at the time. No, 14. Yeah, it was late 2014 when I started volunteering. So I started there, and then 2017 is when I started at Talclin. And yeah, it's so nice. And if all I'll say is, like, your main issue, if you ever want to come over and volunteer, is flights and getting over here. Once you are over here, there's a lovely, there's a hostel that volunteers can stay at for £4 a night. And if you're staying for quite a while, you can apply for a fund to stay there for that period for free. If you've not got funds and such like that, there's lots of ways to help people come over and stay and volunteer, because there's volunteers from like America, Mass as well, coming over, Denmark. Greg, who comes over from, I think it's Hungary. He comes over from Rio in Japan. Come over, and he did some stuff at the Blue Bell, the Blue Bell, as well. Yeah, we get volunteers coming from all over. So if you ever want to, try and do it, because they'll accommodate you as much as you can.
That's great. I will getting there is like the hardest part, though, because it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere.
If you can do it all right, if you time it well, the mainline service to Towin from like Birmingham is all right. It's getting better. It used to be a bit, but in the past like few times I've been, it's been pretty smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm.
So get a plane over to Birmingham Airport, and you can get a train directly to Towin from there.
From Birmingham, okay. I guess that would be easier. I guess every time I've gone to England, I've flown into London. So
yeah, if you Birmingham is where the trains to Wales begin, down the line. So you might need to do one train change at McConclough, but that's about it. And that's already when you've done the bulk of your travel. You've only got like an hour left, or half an hour left when you change. So yeah, Birmingham, you can go straight to Towin. So if you ever come from abroad, I'm just doing a volunteer PSA here. Come over, have fun. And if you can't come over, go and volunteer at your closest, because they need it.
Totally.
It's
looks like our three bearded modelers here, according to Cynic on Rails.
Yeah, three bearded modelers. It's funny, as we get older, we've grown like accustomed. Like I started going to Strasbourg, and all my friends, Jacob at Flying Pringle, Matt at Enterprise Engine, were growing beards. I'm like, wow, this is cool.
This has only happened in the past year for me. Yeah. I've been clean shaven my whole life until like last year. It's weird.
Bearded gang.
Also, for the life of me, this to connect to this.
Well, as you can see, I've got a triangle.
This no problem, but it never connects, no matter how hard
everything grows, but I've got a triangle.
The triangle.
Like there is hair there, but it's so thin. It's just a little triangle.
You should go forward and just like shade it as a perfect triangle instead of point down to your or something.
Way to go, Tony.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, Eric, you poor soul! I forgot you had to do that. An all-nighter at Birmingham Airport.
Hey, Eric.
Hello, Eric. Welcome to the chat.
Eric is the person who took the picture of Duncan on, I think it's Ed's table at Ed's trains when we were at Trough last year, because he's a really good photographer. And I like his pictures he snapped of us when we were just chilling, and took some good shots of us as a group. And he's done some good little photography of the merchandise, but he also has been a Tillellan, and he had a really good experience there too. And some good photographs, good photographer.
Nice. Oh. Is he the one that took the? He's the one that took the photo that's in the thumbnail of this video, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Eric was staying at mine for a few days when he was last over here. And to answer someone's question, Stepney Fan 55 asked like what railways we'd recommend in the UK. Talyllyn, full stop. And essentially, if you're in that area, go to the Festiniog, go to the Welsh Highland, go to the Corris. Go to the Welsh Highland Heritage, which is a smaller one in Porthmadog, which you might miss.
That was a good
deal. Go to the Bala Lake. Just go to all the Welsh narrow gauge ones because they're all in like a very contained area, and you can do them in like a week.
They're all so close to each other. Yeah, you can get to like.
If you're doing it by car, it's a lot easier. But you can do the Talyllyn, the Festiniog. The Thurborn, which is a 15-inch line, which is little known, which is between the Festiniog and the Talyllyn. You can do that, and yeah, you can do those by main line. They're all brilliant. And yes, Queen Elizabeth did visit the TR.
When did she visit the TR?
Oh God, it was 53. I'm going because I know the pictures.
Wow.
1953, maybe. I know there was a royal train before Edward Thomas got the buffers, because there's a picture where it's got the royal insignia on the front, but it doesn't have the Talyllyn buffers on yet. And also another railway that I'm going to suggest, which is more in the north of England, the East Lancashire Railway. That is gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, I gotta go there.
One that's quite close to me, and it's brilliant. It's where Flying Scotsman was restored back to working order. You get a lot of big locos there that you might not elsewhere. Keith Leavenworth Valley Railway, North Yorkshire Moors.
I love North Yorkshire Moors. That rail,
so nice.
That's a wonderful rail. Oh my God.
I love the
North Yorkshire Moors is so nice.
Mm-hmm.
And another benefit of volunteering. Sorry, I keep saying if you are a volunteer and you stick at it, you'll get what's called a grades card, saying what you do. And that may act, you get incentives at some of the railways. For example, I can go to the East Lancashire Railway, show my volunteers card, and get in for free whenever I want.
Wow.
So you get perks for volunteering. Obviously, that's not what it's about, but it's a good little reward.
You know, it's really nice that you got to talk about it for the stream coming on here, because I remember earlier, I think it was this last year, that people were reporting on BBC that there was a shortage of volunteers who are in our age group who were going to be coming in to take, like I was talking about Ed's trains here in the US, carry the mantle.
Exactly. That's the problem at the minute. You've got a lot of the ex-BR people and actual railwaymen from that era sadly dying, and we need the generations. But I do think I'm confident we're okay at the minute. There are a lot of young volunteers at the Talyllyn specifically that I know. There's a lot in my age group and our age group, a lot, and they've got brilliant programs to have a thing called the Navies, which is for under 14s to do track work with the parents and who are also volunteers, and to get them involved. And then we've got the under 16s training courses, which is 14-year-olds to 16-year-olds. They'll do some like one of the tasks was like they got them around Pendray Shed, show them around, and it's like, right, we're going to go and clean Douglas. And they shined it within an inch of his life. Really, really nice. And yeah, so it's all about that. And mainline media getting into volunteering at Steam Railways, give them an email. If you look on their websites, there should be a volunteer email. Just give them an email and they'll help you out. Any of them.
That's awesome. Thank you.
For sure.
No, it's good. Like there are definitely a lack of younger volunteers at some of the smaller railways, sadly.
Yeah.
But I'm confident that at least the upcoming generation, there are a lot of young people interested, and hopefully that at least in Thomas Van, and if that interest carries on and they get into volunteering, that's what you want.
I think it will, honestly. I think you said we're in a good space. I think we are. I think there are enough people out there, especially England, that are like really into trains. Enough to keep those railways going, I think. England is such a train country. Everyone there is like loves them.
Well, it's one of those things. Like we've got at the minute on TV, the North Yorkshire Moors Railway has their own show on Channel 5. It's on its third series at the minute. I think it's just finished not long ago, but it's just following the day in the life on the railway, like, and the volunteers. Genuinely, it's like, and there's been more of that, especially since Flying Scotsman's come back.
Yeah,
I've seen that it's been more present in the media because people, you know, and I'm quite happy about that. But
me too. Yeah, me too.
And I weirdly, I've this is like personal experience because I'm at university in a minute. I'm a lot more open about it than I was at like school. And a lot of people, like, weirdly, I'm not used to it. Like, oh, Steve, it's cool. You do stuff with there. It's cool. I'm like, is it? Like, because I've been so used to not having that growing up, but it's seemingly coming around, which I'm very happy about.
That's great. No, that's great. Yeah. I think even, it makes me think about how, I mean, Steam ended in the 60s. That was 60-ish years ago when it finally faded out. As we keep going on, we keep going further and further away from like that era. Like you're saying, people are dying that were alive during that era. And you would think like, oh, well, as soon as that generation dies out, there's never going to be an interest in trains again. Like people are never, it's just going to fade out. I think trains are just such a universal appeal.
There's
always going to be into them. People that are into like machinery, into history specifically, there's always going to be an interest.
There was a lovely video I saw from a newspaper they put up. Scottish girl, probably like 4, something like that. The mum was recording her, and every time a train was going past, she was like jumping up and down, going, "It's Thomas! It's Thomas!" Like it was a sprinter, like a DMU, but like
that was adorable.
Yeah, and it's if that is encouraged from the parent, and they take them to Heritage Railways, fingers crossed you've got a volunteer there.
Yeah,
and someone to carry it on.
Absolutely. It's about making those experiences, bringing a kid to a heritage railway. When they see a steam engine, they're not going to forget that.
That's why, like, I do think the TR gets people flocking from around the world because everyone's so, like, talking, talking to the guests, getting them on the footplate, showing them around the sheds. Everything that they say, we always do it because that's what I got shown, and that's why I took the steps. So it's like getting them on the footplate, show them what it does, show them the fire, give them help, like show them stuff, show them the things, and they'll go, I want to do it, and hopefully they will.
What's interesting, I think it's the same concept when it comes to modeling, because when you have a group of people who are older and who are really passionate about what they do, where you have younger kids who get exposed to it, and there are some who invite them home and say, well, take a look at my model, come take a look at the layout and questions, and they may be curious, and they may even give them the controller, a DCC controller. Like, here's, you press the whistle, and here's the bell.
Yeah.
And it's like when you hear like me being American, when you hear people talk about high rail modelers from Lionel or people who collect tinplate antiques who are, oh, don't touch it. Oh no. And it's like Norm Charbonneau is like, hey, take my model, take a look at the way that this works, and the Bluetooth line, let's say, what is it called? Line control, whatever it is, to operate through your phone. If you get kids into it, they're really going to latch onto it, because that's the way that I was when I grew up. And when I got exposed to it, and you had kind people who are willing to take the time to show you, that's an incredible experience. And I think that's what's going to help keep the fire alive. It's not, you don't, it's so incredible.
Yeah, it's what I always, because I was exhibiting with my model railway club at the start of March, and that was so good because I was operating like one of the other club members' layouts, and I was constantly like, anyone coming up was like, "Oh, how are you, right?" You know, and actively try and talk to them, because I find sometimes you don't. And especially with the younger kids, it's kind of like whenever some of the kids came up and I could see they were like looking at stuff, I'd send the A4 around really fast, within reason. But it keeps them hooked, and then you just go, oh, I keep always go, hang on a minute, look at the signal, and I'd put it to green, and then send the A4 around and stuff to try and get them involved. You know, like, because it wasn't my layout, so I wasn't going to hand them the controller. But behind me, I'm working on Crovan's Gate. So that should be being exhibited around the UK, hopefully one day, fingers crossed. So I might see you at any of those shows and may give you the controller.
Ooh. Would you, maybe this is a silly question, but once you finish Crovan's Gate and you start showcasing like the layout with the models on it, you think you'll put faces on them or no?
I'm probably exhibit without faces.
Okay.
Because that's kind of the Rev style, and that's kind of what I want to emulate.
Right.
What I kind of do is like a mix between his modeling and the, like, you know, real life and what he wrote.
Higher standards, yeah, for sure.
Because you can do a lot more than that what he could back then.
I will only ask this because I wonder, like, if you put faces on them, that's going to attract kids more.
100%. But also, I kind of want to make a point to the old fogies. I want them to come over expecting like a normal layout.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, oh, that's Thomas, but it's, you know, modeled to the standards they want to see from the other layouts. I just kind of want to go to them, this is the books. you know, just kind of like this is what it is. You know, it's not this childish I just kind of want to slightly make a point because a lot of people are very stuck up.
Get that. Yeah, for sure. It's the whole reason Thomas, we're all fans of Thomas, because of this expansive real lore that's behind it. It's not just some baby show, you know.
Obviously, like the show is what got me into it. But what kept me around this long is the Railway series for me, and that lore, like reading through it. And obviously the Audrey studies up at Towin as well. And I might have had a look around there, and there's some very interesting things that I've found out. And like the fact that Audrey's Henry model wasn't binned, and it is in there.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it like, because it broke in like the 60s, I think, and everyone thought it was just, you know, gone. But it was just in a drawer with new wheels.
In a drawer. Oh my god.
Yeah, he was rebuilding it and then like gave up. No one knew until the other year when I took a picture of it.
Which ones still survive? I know Edward survives. I know Donald survives. Scarlet Witch survive. Yeah,
all those are there. There's like a couple of. There are 3 models that I don't think anyone that I had no idea existed.
Okay.
That the Reverend got I think in like the 80s, got made by a person at his model railway club, scratch built them for him, of Stuart Falcon and Peter Sam, not the ones in the display cabinet or the ones on the mid-soda layout. These are completely separate models. Thomas wasn't stolen. No. Sorry, I just seen the comment there. The TR's got like 3 Thomases of Audrey's. They got one made out of a Ginty, the Stuart Reed Path one, and the one out of the Hornby E2. They've got the 3 Thomases, 2 Percys, 2
Wait.
Tobys.
What's the third Thomas? There's the Gen 2 one. There's the
There's
E2 one.
the E2 and the Stuart Reed path, which is like a diecast model that he converted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mike Whitehouse Films has made a replica of one of them.
Yeah.
Of that one.
That one. Gotcha. Yeah. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, Michael does a really good job with his recreation.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
His look after the Reverend Audrey's models, and I've got to talk with him a couple of times on Discord. He's a really nice guy. He
He's
wrote
lovely. He's so lovely.
stories, and to be honest, they're some of my favorite on the show currently now because
I
and
only watch his episodes now. I'm
Yeah.
really not.
Ones. Let's be real.
I'm
The
really not
Bolton
a fan
one,
of the show.
The one. They're the only good ones.
I'm really not a fan of the show, but it gives me, it makes me happy someone like Mike's working on the show because he absolutely deserves it and he does a brilliant job with it.
Hands down, because he even got, I had the privilege of hearing him talk about his experience with some of our heroes like Ian McHugh and reviewed and critiqued with his stories and getting accoladed for trying. And like working the TCC, I can definitely share like how it is when you try to fit into the mold that the company asks you, because it's a job, right? You're trying to do stories that you like. And there's Matt Enterprising Engine and Trend at D199 work with our producer to create the stories. And never was like anything that like the CSC, the thing that he created with Charlie Good Films and the fandom does, where I like that they're doing this stuff in the fandom now because they're things that they're doing for themselves. They're not answering to anybody. They're doing it because it's fun and they love doing what they're doing. When you have a brand or a particular group of people you have to shoehorn your ideas through, it's going to be a little bit different and difficult sometimes because you're kind of advertising the toy. But I still really humble myself because I learned so much from observation of being a fly on the wall because I really wanted to know what it's like in the experience. And I think it's worth being able to do the best that you can and work with the people that you get along with. I still got a close bond with the people who work for the TCC because we create stuff that we did really enjoy, and most important that we had fun, really. And even since the show has got renewed because of the stuff that's going on with the brand and the choices they're making, like if you've seen the current show with the Trackmaster, the different affiliate people, it's not to the standard that we really, really liked. And I was really glad. I recently saw a few months ago, people were like, the TCC was so cool. We want to see more like that. And like, I'll always be thankful that I work with it because I got to work with Proteus. I got to make that model and do some cool stuff with people that I work with now. And that's awesome.
Go ahead, Luke.
I was going to say, I'm going to share my screen quickly just to show off a few of the stuff in Rev Study, if you won't mind.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Share screen. Chrome tab. That one. Share. Can just obviously tell me if that's going to work.
Yeah,
it is working.
There we go.
Yeah. So you've got Henrietta and Elsie.
Wow.
There's his models there. Now this was called the Quarryman's Coach, which I think is where, this is just my speculation, potentially where Christopher got the idea for Victoria.
Huh.
Because, it's not meant to be like another Henrietta. In the stock box, it was labeled Quarryman's Coach.
What is that, like a Marklin?
Yeah, it's a German model.
Huh.
It's really weird. I feel like it might have been like an early Henrietta before he had it, and then once he got the proper one, he renamed it to the Quarryman's Coach. So, pardon?
I said, and they just kind of turned it into something else. Yeah, okay.
Scruffy.
Beautiful.
A few pictures there. There's his second James.
This is the one, the triangle.
It is. Triumph 3F, yeah. The trailing wheel is there. The screw had just come out. It's all still fine.
Okay.
That's that. That is one of the Percys.
This is the first one, right?
No, second.
This is the second. Okay.
Yeah. 2 Tobys and a Mavis.
Beautiful.
One's the J70K's kit one, which is that one there. Oh. And this one here is a kit of a Y6 actually.
Nice.
So that was the first one. That was the later one, and then Mavis is over there. This is the E2 Thomas.
There we go. Yep.
Which I think is it captures Thomas for me, like in the E2 form.
It's quite nice.
We discovered one of the mine engines was in a drawer from the mid-sodal layout.
Nice.
There.
Wow. So all those survived then. I always wondered what happened to the mid-sodal.
This is the Reverend's original James.
Oh,
the Glasgow Southwestern.
The Austrian goods, right?
Pardon?
Is that the Austrian goods?
Yeah, the Austrian goods. Yeah, which when he decided to change James's class, he got it repainted into the proper livery for the Austrian goods.
There's an ongoing joke with me and Peter Sam's funnel. He says James is an Austrian goods. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. Nope, that's not James.
It was James, but isn't. Now here's the original Henry.
Oh boy.
So, like I say, that broke in like the 50s or the 60s, and a lot of people, like Mike, White House Films, who has done a lot of research, he was one of the first people I sent this to, and he was like ecstatic because he was like, I thought that was binned. I thought that model was long gone for the longest time, but it was in one of the drawers in the study, and he'd started repairing the chassis.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible to see. I'm very glad. If they get him restored, that'd be great to see, for real.
That is so cool.
Is that a bird? The little
Pardon? No, this is Falcon. This is the second Falcon model that he got scratch built by one of his club members.
That
like one of his fellow club members.
It looks really detailed.
I think we pinpointed. It's not one of the revs. He got someone at his local model railway club to build it for him.
Got it. Okay.
I think we pinpointed this to be around the 1980s. And then there's Peter, Sam, and Stuart that he got from the same person.
Oh, that's cool. Well, question: what about the other little engines that are like the other engines that came and went? Penn-Steen had a whole blog where they were showcasing.
Yeah. Now, as I was talking with Mike a few days ago, that layout we think's with Christopher Audrey. So he's got all those models, and these are the ones we've only got the ones that are here.
Nice. That's why her handle is Alfred, because he has white lining instead of red. Because
he's got the black and white line in there.
That's interesting.
Which in one of the notes, like it does say, there's a little letter from the gentleman who scratch built them for the Reverend, and it does say it's of Falcon.
Wow.
Stuart and Falcon in there.
Holy crap. History in the
there's a lot of, and some lovely, I got some close-ups on some of the maps and such in here.
Wow.
Timetables, pictures of the old layouts. This is close-ups on the big 3D map on the wall.
Oh, I love that map. That map's so beautiful.
Close-ups up on that. That's all very interesting to see. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in there that like it was only kind of like a fluke that I managed to, because we were going in to just essentially check everything over and just doing like a stock tech and stuff, just checking everything's all fine and all in good nick, and I got to put my James model on the layout.
Oh yeah, I've seen these pictures.
Very happy.
These are great. How does it feel that you got to touch something that has the Reverend W. Audrey's DNA on it?
That's very creepy. From a lot of the people who knew the Reverend at the TR, they say you go into that study and it smells like his cigars. It's the kind of smell that would follow him, if you know what I mean, because he smoked a lot of cigars and such.
Right.
And this is the extension of the Farquhar branch layout.
Oh, I love that.
Which is, it can't be displayed, so it's in storage.
I love that too.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah.
Dude, let me ask this. Do you, I've discussed this with like Nimo before, and like we don't really have an answer. I don't think anyone has an answer really. What happened to the mid-Sodor layout? Did that get like thrown out, or is it?
No, I think from what Mike Whitehouse Films said what I was saying before. Christopher Audrey has it. It's still with the family.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
still with the family. Because when I think it was on display at Cadeby or somewhere that shut down.
Okay.
I don't think it was Cadeby actually, but it was at a narrow gauge railway on display, and that place shut down. And then because Peg and Scene had it on there saying that it was on display somewhere, when that shut down, there was no words it went, but it went back to the Audrey family.
Okay. Okay.
So the models are safe.
I'm assuming Duke and those guys are with that then.
yeah, that's what we can assume. Sadly, obviously, Chris is quite shut in nowadays, so it's kind of hard getting any info out. Maxwell Haggerty, the layout is still operational.
Wow, pretty cool.
Yeah. As far as everyone's concerned, that is still, it's not used much, obviously, but what I asked and he was like, yeah, it still works.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember when I've seen the layout. I haven't, of course, I didn't put any engines or anything on it, but in 2011, saw it through the window there. So surreal, just like seeing his stuff right there in front of you. Stuff that the man himself worked on.
Yeah, thanks for having those photographs, because even something as simple.
It's something that I've wanted to kind of get online somewhere, but I want to make sure it's all correct first. But just showing it in here, not full quality.
Even something as simple as a map on the wall, being able to have some good quality photographs to look at it, you can see the detail of the station.
Oh yeah, it's so nice.
It's like one of the pictures that model makers would make before they make the actual set, to see the mountains and like where they want the levels to be. It's a good thing to do.
So, see, Edward Kingo too. That is what one of the things we were looking through, because I was chatting to the guy who is kind of the model railway looking after, and me and Mike Whitehouse Films were wondering, it was Gordon's model in the study.
And it wasn't.
That sadly not. No, so we don't. I don't think anyone actually knows where Gordon's model is. Someone probably does, but it's not. If anything, you'd hope it's with the family. And also Maxwell, you can look at the study through windows in the museum, but to actually go in, it is just volunteers. And I say just volunteers. Like even then, it's only on special occasions. And thankfully, it was just kind of being in the right place at the right time and talking with. And thankfully, like I say, the guy who's kind of in charge of all the model railway stuff is the big Audrey fan as well. So we were having a right old chat. And he was like, well, I need to go and check through it anyway. Do you want to come up with me? And he said, and bring your James. And I didn't know. And that led up, he said, right, you can put it on. So I was like, okay, that's brilliant. It was just, it is such a kind of like a look thing that I managed to get in. But yeah.
That's awesome. God, that's so surreal. Stuff by the man himself. You must have been so elated when they let you in there.
Yeah, man.
I want to. We mentioned Michael White earlier, and so like he's recreating Audrey's layout very faithfully. There's one video of his that I want to share that I think is just wonderful, and this one here. Have you guys seen this? You guys have seen this, right?
Yeah, he showed me that when we were on the live stream, but the way that he made it fall was incredible.
I was so impressed by this. Look at that.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
No one's ever like recreated down the mine and like done it faithfully, like where the ground actually comes down underneath him. Usually they have like the hole and then Thomas just falls into the hole.
It's a really clever, practical way of recreating the mine pit for Thomas to go down and make it actually look like it's sinking. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool practical effect there. Only time I've ever seen that done. I thought that was really notable. I'm like, hey, you did a good job on that.
That's going to be immense when he finishes it.
Oh yeah, is he doing the whole episode?
He's doing the whole thing. Branch Line Engines as like. Oh, not Down the Mine. Sorry, no, because Down the Mine's not in Branch Line. That was just a test. Sorry. Yeah, that was just him testing out stuff that he can also use in Branch Line Engines. But he has announced it. He's doing.
Gotcha.
Branch Line Engines is kind of like a movie.
Funny that I just talked about Albert like being that locomotive or not, because Jax asked, "Wait, Sudrian, do you have plans for Albert?" Well, I do in the sense that like when I get done like my favorite core TV series engines that I've made, like Duncan and Renee's and all those engines, I like to when I spring off from Duke do some of the other Minnesota Railway engines. Like there's Albert, there's Tim, there's Jim, there's Jennings, and there's John. The mining engine, Alfred and Atlas, the twin brothers, whatever they are. I think they would be great because I have found basis photographs of them from what I found from looking online that's even been incorporated into the wiki because they look similar. I'd like to make those into models because I've always wanted to do some more of my own narrow gauge construction characters and make stories about them, like I talked about Proteus in the very beginning of the stream too. So yeah, I'd love to do that.
I have a question for you, Steven. Are you planning on making a model of Milhauser?
Yeah, because here, let me also give you a picture too, because
that picture you showed me was like really, really nice. I want to see that realized as a model.
Milhauser, sorry.
This locomotive was given the from the old Iron Bridge, Luke, who fell down the bridge. Ryan at Solar Island fan site, when he recreated the Duncan Gets Spooked adaptation for a horror-based audio adaptation, he also did Ghosts and Magic, and you can find it still on SoundCloud. But they named the engine Milhauser, and that's why we call him that, because that's the name that they gave him. But German name. I've always wanted to ask Ryan what the meaning behind the name of it is, because it's so different, and because the engine that I found is beautiful. And let me try it.
I'm sure if you literally give him a message, he'll happily chat to you about it. 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's a cool name.
Yeah. Thank God for Sif. Let's see.
I'm so tempted to. I'm probably going to get a
Megan Stanley,
a nameplate to put on, say Stanley. I'm probably going to keep him in the black. Honestly, wasn't like written somewhere that Audrey said he was black, not red? Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I found
we're just hearing the rumors, but
I'd probably put nameplates on the say Stanley, just to make it fit in a little bit more with what I'm doing. But yeah, the Baldwins are gorgeous. The Batman ones, they are brilliant.
Hey Nick, I DM'd you the picture of the basis.
Let me grab that.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, there we go.
The Blau Festinial Gray.
Yes, Nipper.
It's so cool, and it looks so similar to Skarloey because of the shape of the curved ended parts of the cab coming together, and the shape.
It's the bunker and dome arrangement.
Yeah, because it's factory livery in this photograph, and it's black and white, but doesn't it look very ghostly? It's amazing. I love this photograph so much.
Yeah, no, I do love this just design of Loco. I'm so glad that it's that you've chosen. I think that's a really nice thing, because it makes a lot more sense than being a Fletcher Jennings Loco, but it's got that outline.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just love the look of it too, and just finding out the look of it. Someone on DeviantArt actually drew it with a face on it and made a little backstory behind it, because it's like that's what called the attention of, okay, I know the Blastiniog Railway because of the joint railway with the Welsh Highland and Festiniog Railway, and it's beautiful, unique engines that were never preserved that look so beautiful, including these two engines. And it's like that looks so similar to Skarloey, and it makes perfect sense that he would be made into this basis because it's very similar, like you were saying. It's cool. Yeah. I want to make this locomotive and give him because I have the Railway series look just like you, Luke. I want to give this engine the Skarloey Railway TV series livery, where it's dark maroon with white stripes.
Yeah, that'd be a nice way to work it in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Possible livery for the engines that worked on that railroad that the Boulder Quarry connects to the old Iron Bridge.
Very nice, very nice.
There. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep getting this question asked. I keep seeing this in the chat. Sorry, I don't have a Snapchat. I've never made one. Someone keeps asking that.
I like this one from Joseph. Milhauser means history of disturbance. I tried looking that name up before to see what meaning, because every name has a symbol, a meaning, or a definition, right? So that's interesting to know because, like, oh, so that's why, because that makes total sense. That's interesting.
History of disturbance, and it was the engine that, well, disturbed the waters, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think it would have been a great basis for the engine, and I'd love to make it. That would be a cool challenge. I think a challenge would be to design the face because, like with, where is she? Like with Cora, I designed her face from freelance, like how I wanted her to be from the illustrations, and gave her a very TV series look to it. And
very much works.
Yeah, looks great.
Thank you.
Little and large.
Little and large together.
Gang, bring it on. Yeah. She was a delight.
I don't have one to share, unfortunately. I don't have a Cora.
Get out. I'm kicking you out your industry.
Make one. Make
Cora
one.
gang.
I have a salty here. This is a box, right?
Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
No, I really do. I really do. You're salty.
This is pretty close.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. Let's see. I wouldn't mind sharing this again. Flying Scotsman 4472 asks, hey Scotty, Sudrian, how do your models run and work?
Oh, yeah.
Large scale ones. So I'm making Peter Sam right now. He doesn't have to because I need to make some. But I'm making Peter Sam and I'm making Stuart, like I showed earlier, like in the same style. But I can take this off because it's on a chassis that I've made from Legos. Here, let me do it with Scarlet. Renee is right here. So brace yourselves, don't worry, because all these engines are designed so that I can pop them off and put them back on. So first of all, like if any of you guys are on the stream and haven't seen earlier, this is Renee's, one of my favorites.
I do adore your Renee's.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous.
That's beautiful.
So the back heads of the coupling rods snap off, and if I can gently pull them off,
it's all it's Lego, isn't it?
Here's the basis of everything. This is the power function system. So at least one wheel, because this long wheelbase is powered here and it's extended out in the front with more Legos. Big Ben Bricks. Big Ben Bricks is a company based in Portland, Oregon online. You can look them up on Google. But they sell custom drivers that are small, medium, or large for any of the people in the Lego community who make custom engines. I've got them, added paper flange counterweights right here with paper, spray painted it, weathered it. And the coupling rods are balsa wood. This is the balsa wood painted up, and the parts here are paper rolled up on top of the part where it's Lego that connects to the brick. Okay, so this is the battery pack that connects with the cable with the IR receiver. If I turn this on, this blinks on the receiver, and I can go to 4 channels. So each set I'm 1. So if I have my remote controller and set it to the very first channel, then I will be able to control Renee's. If I put it on the second channel for the other engine, if I have Duncan, I'll put on the second channel. Then it connects, by the way, to the motor. So there's the battery pack, $49. The IR receiver, $20. Same the chassis, that's about 20. You can get the wheels very cheaply too. But when I powered it on, I put the engine back on because, you know, look, that's like the hollow shell that I've carved from balsa wood. So then I put them back on.
Oh, that's interesting. The coupling rods are a part of the shell, and then you just hook them on. Okay, that's like clever.
Yeah, I attach them to the counterweights to the shell because that way it will be freeform. So that when I hook them up,
that's clever. Yeah,
like this, boop, that way I can be able to make more engines based on the same one because I have one and I started getting more.
Right,
so
right.
Now let me try this.
There he go.
Oh my God, there he goes. Oh, that is brilliant.
I'm so glad that worked. Oh my God, I was so nervous. That's how I take an engine off, put it back on, power it. And it's not ideal. Like Renee's can pull a decent amount of freight cars, but he can't pull long trains. And because of the Lego power system, Lego is equivalent to 1 gauge, I believe. So Renee's can run on 1 gauge track. I've tested it at Ed's place where we had LGB track, and he's a little
Oh
bit
yeah, I've seen the video. Yeah, yeah.
1 gauge. And if I want to, because like the Thomas show, when they made the size larger, they had Petco's SM32 tracks for the layouts. So if I had an O gauge chassis, Renee's would run perfectly there. But it's like I said in the beginning, working with what you have and making something beautiful and realistic with model making techniques with just I use paper for making my buildings. Like I did this, it's all paper and balsa wood. That's all this building really is. So, and it's because of what I have. There's something very valuable to be said when you try to do that, and when you just work at in your model making skills. Then, like, you can graduate to making buildings with the JTT Sinks plastic buildings and painting and weathering. It's so fun, and I really love making it, man. It's just fun.
What do you use for the boiler on Renee's? What did you use for that? Like, is that like a tube or?
Well, that's a good question because I mentioned about it when I was talking about Peter Sam earlier. I made the shell like the cabin using as illustration, but I made the piece. I cut it every single piece, and then I paste it together with balsa wood reinforced and tape. So when you say you look at Peter Sam, his whole boiler is wrapped around the front and the back, and within the inside, and reinforced with some super glue on the edges. That's how I can be able to create that shape on the front and the back. So I made that shape. It's awesome. Yeah. Okay. It's all origami to me. I figure out the parts that I want to make with paper in the drawings, and then I just transfer the drawing. And by the way, Luke, I use centimeters and millimeters to measure out my drawings if I'm making it and transferring them to paper, because it is so useful when you work with a metric system. You know, because
it's just what I'm used to.
Yeah, I just like
that's just what I've grown up with. But yeah, I do everything of mine's in millimeters and centimeters.
We use inches here in America.
I mean, to be fair, all of our rulers are dual. You've got centimeters at the bottom and inches on top.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
We do use inches still. It's weird. We prior to like Popular Belief, we do use like both systems because like we still use miles more than like kilometers and such. Like all the cars are miles an hour rather than kilometers an hour.
So it's like a weird mix of both.
Yeah, it's a unique mix because people have been using like miles for so long over here. That's just what it is.
Just what it is now, yeah. Everyone, I mean, that's what we use here. It's like all miles. I never thought about that. Yeah, in England they do talk about miles. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. It's weird.
Solar Pro asked, have you considered making one of the standard gauge engines in the scale of your large scale?
Ooh.
That's a very good question because the second video on my YouTube channel, Sudrian Modeler on YouTube, I show the compilation of the stuff with the narrow gauge engines I was making from scratch. You see all the engines, Renee's, Scarlo, Acer, Handle, Duke, all the way they appeared in the TV series. And then I jumped to like the Boulder Quarry set with the Shed and Thomas. I made Thomas in the same scale because it was with what I had, and I wanted to create that Boulder. And I don't know how I'm going to do it because of with YouTube laws. I want to figure out, because I have tentatively made a remake of Toby's Discovery and Rusty in the Boulder and Duncan Gets Spooked that I never published on YouTube before. And even though it's outdated, even though it was back in the day when I started, I might like to show it because I think people would really like to see that because that's how I got started. But
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it's a big foam boulder that I painted with orange, and brown colors to make it look like the way it was when it fell down. It was rolling along. I did that, and I did it off camera. I pushed the boulder along the track and stuff I was doing with the TCC with the Thomas Wood stuff. I did it in my room when I was younger, so I might want to do that. But to answer your question, no. But I have customized. I've gotten to customize my Thomas.
I totally forgot you had those. I just pulled out. I was like curious. I just had this on my lap all the time.
That's so cool. I've added some bolts on the top, like the large scale model. I gave him a matte finish, and I added some weathering where the coal bunker is. And I have some fish tank bows where it could fit right on top of the DCC speaker because I got that one. Now the couplings right here. Tom Jetski commissioned me to do the buffer mounts that is molded right in front of here. It's a 3D print, but the coupling itself is by White Metal Models, I think, in the UK, and they specialize on 3-gauge, the large gauge model making that they do custom parts for. They've done axle boxes, they've done couplings, and chain link couplings for the flat freight cars, the open wagons. But
I was about to say about the large scale Thomas models, how like the body shell is too big for the chassis.
Right.
Like if you're looking at gauges, he's narrow gauge.
Right. It's like meter gauge Thomas, where if you have gauge, it would gauge perfectly, but I just don't have the budget to make it yet because
me neither. That's what, if I got one, I'd re-gauge it to gauge 3, definitely, because it
would be fantastic.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
But money.
Yeah, expensive stuff. I would love to see that actually. Because that's always bothered me about scale stuff. It's like it's too big for
someone. I saw it on RM Web. Someone took a Emily, converted to gauge 3, did it up as a Sterling single properly, and it looks.
Oh, I have seen that. And
they did the teak 6-wheel coaches with it as well in gauge 3. Looked gorgeous.
Gorgeous stuff. That was amazing. I'd love to see someone do that with Emily because my friend. Dan, a Darth Assassin, he made a remake in 3D in the 3D modeling system, like with Carson Media. He made one of Emily, a remake of that story, and he made and recolored Emily to be like her Great Northern Railway basis. But she's a better green. She has like a black foot plate. She looks so much better. He even gave her the season 1 a brake house. I would love to see someone. I like to do that. I like to customize my H00 scale Emily to be like that and give her handrails and commission her to be painted in that style because she definitely looks so much like she would have been in season 5. It's gorgeous. So yeah, check it out. Check it out. This is a good video.
I think I found the image. Luke, you tell me if this is the right one or not. Of the Emily. This is like, God, I love this thing. Look at that.
Yes, that's it. That's
the one. Yeah, so that's one of the large-scale Batman Emilys you can buy, but they've widened the gauge to be correct scale-wise. And look at the detail. It's gorgeous.
I can't believe that was
Emily.
A Bachman Thomas toy. Like, I can't believe
so
that.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Such a good job.
Someone did it wasn't a real engine, but someone took like a Bachman and they detailed it up, and it actually looked pretty good. It wasn't.
The takes are modified on in Clarabelle's.
Are they really? Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
I think the brake one's heavily modified, but like,
yeah.
Nah, Alex, that is not HO. That's the large scale one.
That's a big boy or big girl.
That is the large scale one that someone's converted to gauge 3, which is huge.
God, imagine owning that. Man, that is a prestigious model.
That's awesome. I love that.
Totally.
Well, there's a picture I want you to share in the chat, Ed, because let's see, hold on, Nick, because it's funny because this is a really good conversation I have when someone asks like, hey, what made you get into Thomas and the model making to begin with in the very beginning? I usually it's like a conversation starter. Are you able to open it up? Does link work?
Let me see.
Yeah, because I think part of it.
Yes. Let me get this.
Just show it. Like, just put it up.
Is this that? Oh, yep. I knew exactly what this is. Here we go.
By the way, this is like one of the very first images that the Nitrogen Studios Facebook page put up when they saw this.
Yeah, I remember that.
This is brilliant.
So
Absolutely.
a little background behind this image. So when I was in college, guys know that I had the stuff that I was filming in my room when I was like 16 years old in high school. And it was in college that I did my stuff with the editing to put it up on YouTube and discover the fandom. Well, when I was in high school, I didn't know anybody. I didn't find that there was a fandom yet. But, my big dream was to work on the Thomas Show one day. And it's funny because I indirectly have now with the TCC, but like, and doing the poster cover art for Tom Jeski's documentary with Jacob, you should start later. But in the very beginning, I was in an art magnet school, a high school, and I was in the visual arts department. It was like fame. There was music, there was dance and theater, and I was a visual arts student. I was studying art history and photography, and I was making these models when I wasn't in school. And I just sent my resume, my best artwork that I was doing for my classes, like stuff we were doing as a senior project, and made a model of Reneus the way that he looks in this picture. And I sent it to Nitrogen Studios, and I tried to figure out who the right person was to send it to, and it was Greg Tiernan. So I started write, hey, Greg. And the second video I mentioned earlier that has the compilation of the Scarlowe engines at Lego scale in the very beginning with a large Thomas and everything else in HO scale, all of those in that one video. It was called the Diorama and Layout Showcase. This one with Duke and the icon on it. I sent that on a CD and burned it and sent it to Greg Tiernan. And just saying, I really love Thomas and Friends. This was stuff that I was making when I was younger. And I really just wanted to ask what it would be like for an animator to get a job. And what would you be looking for if you wanted to have someone be an animator on the show? And I didn't hear back from him a few years later. And it was actually in the sophomore year in college that I find an email and he sends me that image. It blew my mind. And I was like, oh my gosh. And mom was excited. I was showing it to my mom and dad. And Greg Tiernan was like, oh my goodness, Steven, these videos are absolutely beautiful. You are a really, really talented artist. And he said, recommend it. Like, Steven, you are right in being in art school, because I went to the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore after high school, and that's where I went to study animation. And he definitely work and finish to get your degree, because that's what's going to really help you get into more opportunities when you graduate, so you can get jobs like this in industry. Of course, he was going to get me a job. This is really like an inquiry. I really didn't expect anything from it, but he also encouraged me to share it. And I was like, wow, that really means a lot, because he put it on his Facebook page and everyone's like, oh my God, who is this person? And everyone's like, and like, that was when I decided to like, well, maybe I've always wanted to do this. Let me put it up. So I put up the Vision Scale Modeler blog. I open up my YouTube channel with the Cranky Bugs, Something in the Air, and the Hard Lorry remakes. I put a compilation of footage I didn't finish, like this cow sequence that I never finished but included. And like, all the stuff you see is made from paper. The little pallets are made from wooden balsa wood, the little crates. I started to hand paint all my wagons. And you look at this angle, like Gordon, Henry, and Edward are on the Railway series layout in the illustrations, because they're on that part of the art with Toby. And I've always incorporated some Railway series influence with my TV series stuff to make it a little bit and make it different. And oh my God, I get so nostalgic just looking at these videos, because I loved doing those videos so much. God.
I remember watching these, like, when did you 2013? I remember watching these way back then and just being like,
that lines up when I did the Duncan.
Yeah.
I was about 14.
Yeah. Insane, man.
Play a second, because I sent you the one I shared with Nitrogen Studios. If you click that one, you'll see the way the paper models looked in the very beginning. This
one. Yep. This one is great.
Passy Boy, I remember Blue Henry because he was one of the first people I've seen model in 009 gauge back in the day. And I remember
Henry Blue.
Yeah.
That was one of the massive inspirations as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, oh, it's so good. Like, just being able to do this is why it's one of the reasons why I started. Like,
I remember he did so many fun videos back in the day. I remember it was so
good.
He did I remember the one that I think it was one of the first ones I watched, and the one that stuck with me the most was his remake of Washout. But he like rewrote it to make Percy actually fall in the water off the bridge instead of, you know, just making it. And I don't know, it always stuck with me. I'm like, wow, someone actually filmed their Bachmann trains like on these like really nice looking sets going into like water and doing these crashes. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Those Afghans, they're them Afghan quilts.
It is, yep, the quilts.
That income was fun to make, because I have boxes that I put underneath, And so I could be able to put all of that together to make it like hills. I was using my learning curve boxes underneath and planks and books to make the hills look like that. So yeah, that blog is still up, guys. And if you want to link into it, it's reborn as a Sudrian Remodeler blog, but it's still going, and you can watch and look at the stuff. I might want to update it because the stuff I've shared on Twitter, I'll let it take time this week, I think, and begin updating it. So expect that from me in the next couple of weeks, I think. I'll update the blog.
Yeah, no, using boxes and stuff like that. It's just such a simple, easy way to make nice landscapes and layered sets. Like I know, TARDIS Rescue.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine, and he uses Railway Series books, and he's used Railway Series books in the past to hold up the sets, and also old Doctor Who VHS videotapes and stuff like that.
Actually, he's using the Railway Series to hold up his literally creation.
Jax has asked a question about what do you think Croven's basis is, and do they mean Croven's Gate? I'm assuming so. Essentially, Croven's Gate is like the first area of the Talaclin Railway, like meshed together. Because on the Talaclin, you'll go to Towin Wharf where the station is, and you'll have the little wagon turntables and the standard gauge line next to it. What you've got there is the platform here. On the Scarloey, the platform's shoved over there by the standard gauge, and then where the rest of the thing is, you've got the engine sheds from further down the line moved all the way further up and put here in the loco shed. So you get Pendray, which is the loco sheds on the Talaclin, and Towin Wharf, and you just mesh them together, and you've got Croven's Gate, which is what, like I say, I'm modelling at the minute behind, and that's what my layout's going to be. So that's fun.
The part behind the sheds in the Railway Series is basically Towin Wharf.
Yeah.
Or Towin Wharf, and then the sheds are basically
Pendray,
but just in a different location than they are in real life. In real life, they're further down the line, whereas in the Railway Series, they're like right next to the wharf.
Well, cool. I've always wanted to know that myself. Actually, that's pretty.
If you look at the track layouts, the corner of the wharf is exactly the same as Towin Wharf's corner, but obviously the station and everything's just been slightly moved about.
Yeah, here, like the image one is right here, and then these are like the tracks that are behind the sheds in the Railway Series, and then the Railway Series, the line goes off this way, and then the sheds right here. Yeah,
and the main line connection stations are further bit down to the left.
Yep.
Oh, someone's asked about Fred, my favourite.
Yeah,
Fred.
Alf gang. No, sorry.
I want to make him like a legit. I want to make them in large scale and have them compatible like a season 5 look too. It's just
get a picture of Alpha. Get a picture of Alpha now.
All right.
It's our boy. No, it's Fred. I really like Alf, which is the basis for Fred.
I'm gonna pull a picture of Alf that's actually on the internet. So
Alf is such a good deal. It's just the workhorse, and it's got a lot of character, and Fred is great. Because it's Alf.
The best picture of Alf ever.
Oh my lord, it's right. It still never gets old seeing like all these pictures that I've seen over and over, but knowing the people that are in them now. Because like I know the guy. It's Dave Jones, who is, if you know
DJM.
No, different Dave Jones.
I was like,
if you read like Railway Adventure or know of like Di Jones and Hubert Jones, who used to work for the Talaclin pre-preservation.
Okay.
That's son and such, and the Jones family, which have been with the Talaclin Railway since like 1900. Well, not maybe 1900s. It's like still with the family right through to now.
Right.
It's just a family that's been working for the railway longer since it's been preserved.
Amazing.
Excuse me, because one person asked, do you still have...
I was just about to highlight this. I was about to ask this too.
All of those models, like my dad has them displayed downstairs in the office because he likes to reminisce about these videos. But they're crumpled because of moving and putting them in boxes. And besides, with the way that they look, you guys know, like as I grew up and figured out the shapes that I've gotten better, but they're very, very crumpled and I can't use them anymore. But I do have some, like, this is a building that I've made that I put into some of my videos, like
Nice.
cardstock. You know, look at the roof, look at the bottom, it's all cardstock.
Nice,
But I
nice.
do have this.
Oh, big boy.
Remember this?
Oh, the ship, Ricky Bug ship.
And
Nice.
it's from Tugs. This film is from. It actually crashes that light boat. Lily, the lighthouse engine.
Oh, the tramp steamer. Yeah.
That's the same tramp steamer, and they rehulled it and resculpted it. And there's a light in here. That's because I actually had it lit when I was moving along, just like this, and crash cranky. That's what
Yeah.
too. But those are two of stuff that I still have. That's still paper that I've saved because they're still good models, and I like to base them off to update them, and make them look cool. But that is, I love doing those. I love anything that's based on the waterfront when it comes to making sets and cranes and those beautiful seaside details like wharves and docks. Because
Totally.
the Brenham docks are my favorite sets, and the harbors from season 3, top tier goodness.
There's a question.
Season 3 harbors are beautiful because it's a perfect mesh of Thomas and Tugs. I mean,
It is.
as close as it gets.
Oh my God. Big Mickey, you know, the SS Rockstar, all those beautiful props were just gorgeous.
Beautiful props they repurposed from Tugs, yeah.
I'm very much interested by the question, which is there a model that you guys regret making?
Ooh.
Because I don't think I've been maybe disappointed with how a model's turned out,
Sure.
or not satisfied, but I don't think I've ever regretted one. Like, this is my first attempt at building a loco, like, completely including a chassis. Like, this is my own design that I've made, and my God, is it awful. And it doesn't properly run, and it's not amazing, but I don't regret it because now I can improve upon it. It's taught me a lot. And that's the same with, like I say, I came onto the stream going, oh, look at, where the hell's the shed gone? Mark III. This is the third time I built this shed.
Yep.
And that is because the first 2 times wasn't happy with it, but I don't regret it because it's informed the way I've made this. So,
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, disappointment, but never regret.
That's great.
I'm kind of the same way. Like I have, like, with my models, there's like little things that I regret doing. Actually, let me pull up an example right here.
You might regret the process, yeah.
So I actually built this recently, and I don't regret it at all. I love this model, but little things here and there I regret doing. Like the body shell actually had like rivets on the side, but as I was sanding it, I accidentally sanded some of them off.
Yeah.
So I just remove them altogether because like, oh, I can't have some. So like little regrets like that I learned that'll influence like decisions I make later on, of course. But
yeah.
I don't think I regret anything. Just little things I wish I didn't. You know?
I sent you a link to one of my posts on my blog, actually, because I was sharing something I was doing from college because I wanted to make prints, and someone did ask if I had Duke. And yes, I do, but I tried remaking it and seeing if I could begin making this type of style that I've made now, because I remember like trying to see if I could make a new updated look for the engines. And this one started because look, you know, I was using the 9-volt fastest Lego. I really did not like the proportions I was restricted with because of it, and it would die out later. And that's what gave me the idea to get the power functions and customize it. Because look, you know, I tried putting the paper off for the wheels, and it would rip off very easily. And this was a growing model for me because, I mean, you look at the rivets, they're paper. It just, now I use, like I showed you before, I use plastic gems for bolts now, and they're perfect. And I've incorporated the use of craft wire for the handrails because they're paper. It was like, I knew there was a leap that was going to happen sometime with what I was going to get, because I knew I wasn't happy where I was, and I wanted to grow to incorporate more stuff because, you know, like I said, I started with stuff I could get, but then I was like looking at different parts of the craft store. Like, well, model makers are using craft wire for the handrails and for the piping and the tooling, just like I did with Renee's, you know, and that's when I included like handrails, making the whistle, and making, actually, it's not even brass, It's just paper wound around a screwdriver and wrapped 4 times so I can create that look of a whistle, you know, and those gems right there for the bolts on top and on the side, and even the cap detail like on the inside. I think even his cap door opens. Yeah, it does. You can see it open in and out like that. And the back, all these things, like it was from trial and error, and that's kind of what helped get all the way up to this point, because there's no such thing as perfection, but I've gotten warm comments about this is as perfect as you can get. But then you got people who are making season 4 style models. You've got people who are like me who are doing season 5 inspired like a mesh, and you've got Luke who's doing it in 009 gauge. It's like there is so much diversity in this fandom, and I love that we get to inspire each other, because when it comes not about competition, where if you have friends together where you encourage each other to get better and you get tips, like Nick and I, we spend hours talking about modeling. I might talk in Carson Media's 3D modeling community group where I have Luke, and we talk about terminology for the British Railways, making sure that I've got my facts right, and knowing that, like, hey, there's rules, there are regulations, in the sense that rules and regulations for the basics and knowing your terminology and those things. But then,
yeah, because we had the
story, but
we had quite a long conversation about braking systems and modern wagons and the Northwestern in the modern day and all that.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then like even brake pipes too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't claim to be like an expert on everything, but like, if I can help, I'm always happy to like answer anyone's questions.
Absolutely, because like then it's like I was talking about with Trent at Diesel 10 TVs. I'm sorry, Trent at D199's Twitter handle. He had a really good rant about creating content with your models, because you don't have to have a customized Thomas like I have with a 3D printed face and all that.
No.
If you want, you can have a Thomas and not worry about customizing it and make stories with it, because that's what's going to get you to begin making content. What you have. I had a little camera.
Everyone starts somewhere, yeah.
Exactly, and it's like that's my argument. There's no such thing as big users. We have a connection with what we like, and we love sharing as we keep growing. And there's a responsibility that we have. But there's nothing more powerful than the joy that you have with something, because that's how you get better, not only as a content creator, but as a person. You get to hear other people's ideas and their opinions. You get to learn how to interact with people that you might not agree with. And I think it's a great balance between being a good person and sharing the things, like we were talking about railway enthusiasts and preserving railways, to getting people close to model making and enjoying the craft of creating things. It's like there is something for everyone, and you're only limited by your imagination, the time that you have, the money that you can, like, there you can make anything on any budget. Like 2,000 pounds for a Hornby Murdoch? No, I can take my model and weather and customize and make it look like it is on a fraction. And then, you know,
it's not worth it. Just make your own.
Exactly.
Just buy it up and do what you want with that.
Not worth it.
Right.
Honestly, I feel in the way that I'd do Murdoch I would buy a 9F in BR Black, weather it to shit. Sorry, I swore, and put the face on it, and that's it. That's how I do Murdoch in a Railway Series thing. No nameplate, nothing, just BR 9F that occasionally works onto Sodor.
That is exactly how I would do it too. Stephen, I think you actually did exactly that, right?
Oh, what was that?
You modeled Murdoch as a BR Black 9F?
Oh, right? I actually got a model from an eBay seller who customized weathering for
Model Center,
making. Yeah, on eBay.
Yeah, you've got the Model Center are quite good with the weathering.
And I put a Nagatoyoshi face on it, from just like I did with my Adams Radial. Same principle. That's a similar model maker had it, and I got another one of these faces and I put it on it. It's perfect. It's beautiful, and I was able to make it look the way that I wanted to, because I like the idea of Murdoch being the one telling the story in the new sheds, where my days working in the Settle to Carlisle line, and he talks about pulling a long oar or a ballast or a line train, going up the long drag through that line in the Settle to Carlisle line, and being weathered and dirty where he came to Sodor. And whether I give him an orange or the maroon and yellow stripe one that Rob Gold Galliers gave him in his concept art, I'd love to do that, or commission someone to do that for me, because I love to give Murdoch that color. Someone in the comments said, would you ever work on a model with more mechanical parts? That's a great question because I have a Band-Aid Classics Trevor. I've always wanted Bachman to make Harvey with the little knobs that they gave Cranky so that you can turn them around and make the crank so they can lower and raise the hook. But Diesel 10, like I would commission my friend, let's think, what is his name? Nscale Thomas, who's done a 3D model of Diesel 10. I would love to make a body shell of it and 3D print it and have the ability so we can be able to move its arms and all that.
If you did it in a large enough scale, you could definitely work on principles of hydraulics to actually see if you could get the like miniature hydraulics.
Mm-hmm.
Actually get the closer work, which would be quite fun.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, Thomas Panfit, characters CGI. I would like to make Luke as an Eric H. for sure, and I would like to.
Luke was under. Yeah, I love Luke.
He's a beautiful character, and
thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Sorry.
Right. Right. We met you. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. Well, like, really, because she is a French engine, I like to actually make her as a guest engine who sort of Norman B brings out to help with the engines. And she has a deep blue livery, still with yellow stripes, and make her industrial because that episode with her and Luke being together, that was a cool story from, I think, season 18, season 19. There were some good stories with those characters together.
Yeah, there were some good ideas there. Millie's a character I could totally see like working like in the world. She's like a privately owned estate engine.
Yeah.
If someone reopened the estate on Sodor, the Earl, for instance, and had a private railway run on it, you would have an engine running it, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be some international engine?
It's nearly 4 a.m. for me.
Yes. I was just about to point that out. We're at the 3-hour mark now. We've cut the streams off at 3 hours the last couple times I've done this.
I was going to head off anyway now.
I do want to. I've had someone asked a question earlier, and I've had my eye on it, and I've been waiting to ask it for the end. So I want to ask this now. We can answer it, and then we can cut the stream off.
All right.
What keeps you guys in this fandom?
That's a great question. There are friends that I've made that I've really been close with. And just like in the very beginning, like I shared my testimony of going to Strasbourg and meeting friends from the Busted Buffer group and Ed at Ed's Trains and being some of my closest friends. I have friends that I've been very close with that I never had growing up. We would share stuff that we like about art, about filmmaking, about model making and collecting that like, that's my jam. But I love and listening to people talk about stuff that they are into now because of Thomas. And I say that for people because I grew up watching Thomas growing up, and because of Thomas, I love trains. I love model making. I love history. I've always loved being able to look at pictures of where engines came from. Like if anyone asks, like, what's your favorite steam locomotive? I can point to on a map and tell you what locomotive it is, what basis it is, what the manufacturer, if it's from Great Britain, if it's in Africa or India, if it's from the United States, export, all those things. It helped me with school. It helped me with learning. And even now, it's a separate thing where like, I really think that there's so many things in the fandom that make it great, where you've got model makers, you've got animators, you've got voice actors, you've got musicians, you've got YouTubers, you've got reviewers, you've got people who have worked for the Thomas Show indirectly, you have people who are just fans, you have people who run conventions, who run meetups. There really is something for everyone, and those are the positive things that I get. And just like with every fandom, like you talk about with Zio, every fandom has a drama, every fandom has a disagreements. But the reason why I'm here is because I love the creativity and I love sharing what I do. And everyone who I've met taught to me is like, man, I got into what I love doing because I saw your YouTube video. Please make more remakes. And I'm working on doing stuff I really want to get back into because there's some things I know that I would want to create people would really appreciate. And whether it's my own videos, I would like to do a YouTube vlog of going to Strasbourg and what's like to go there with Ed and stuff like that. I like to do behind the scenes process videos, like how do I even make a custom of Toby? Like, how do I do this from start to finish? Because that does take time and effort to know that I have the right equipment, like lighting and knowing how to plan out stuff like that. But I want to do it because it's so much fun. And when you have a career, you try to work the best you can. But on the side, it's always something I could look forward to. Is like, guys, I made this today. Because like, really make some good connections with you, Nick. I really appreciate getting connected with you. Same thing with you, Luke, because something that we connected with, that we bonded together over, that made us friends from acquaintances, and that really means a lot. It's incredible.
Totally. I have to echo that and say the reason I stay here and came back actually is I'm just incredibly inspired by just this fandom in general. Everyone in the fandom is a creator, as I've said this before. I'm always inspired by just how creative this fandom is and what, like, everything that they do. From people that make these really nice models, like we're all into like physical models. Like I love seeing people do 00 scale or prop replicas, or people doing like CGI models that look fantastic. It's just endlessly amazed and inspired by the creativity in the fandom, and that's what keeps me around. I don't think fandoms like this, in all honesty.
For me, right, like I said earlier, I was in the fandom, God, quite a long time from like a young age.
Yeah.
Up until like it was 2011, and no, earlier, 2009, 2010, and I left. I sold everything because it wasn't cool, and like trains, blah blah blah, school stuff, and I regret it massively. And a few years later, I was a bit down, and I just stumbled across the episodes on YouTube and watched series 1, Thomas and Gordon, and started watching the old episodes again. And there was someone I got chatting to on a forum somewhere, and we got talking on Skype, and he liked Thomas, and I was like, oh. And then I met another person who also liked Thomas, and it was that thing. And slowly and surely, I am the complete opposite of what I am now, though, in terms of interest, because everyone knows me as this massive, actual railway series, bug of the TV. I do like the TV series, but like for me, railway series is what I enjoy the most. Back then, I was looking to do a bloody Magic Railroad Director's Cut remake. That's what I came back to the fandom doing. I will not do that at all now. But
you're just strange,
yeah, it's a massive change. It's just the friends. It's the people.
Yeah, it's the friends way too.
Like I say, it was on Skype. I got added into a big Skype group because I was talking to someone on the SI 3D forums, because I very early on started doing like 3D modeling, trying to put stuff in trains, because that interested me and I enjoyed playing it. Got talking to someone there, ended up in a Skype group, get some friends, and I've literally been in a Discord call with them. Dan, George, Matt, Stuart, George, Matt, you all know who you are. You're brilliant. Yeah. I've known them all for like over 5-6 years now, and that's what keeps me here. And like putting my stuff up on Twitter as well, and getting nice, feedback, and people asking me questions, kind of like, "Oh, do you know this? Do you know that?" It's really kind of gratifying. And yeah, there's shit that goes on, but they're always going to get off.
I love this comment from Alex. Because someone was asking, "Could I make my series? Should I start doing it again?" And this guy's like, "I'm like, do it." I posted in your chat, like, do it. I pilot this comment. Do what makes you happy. Now I'm gonna make others happy, because I did my stuff because I love what I did. I wasn't making it for a company. I wasn't making it for Mattel. I didn't answer anybody. I wasn't even making it to please my parents. They supported me and they liked what I was doing, but they encouraged me to do things that have led to my career, because I just love making things with my hands, and it's wonderful, And it's like someone is asking before, I can't find it here, but it's like one of the things that would make my wooden railway things look cinematic. And I'm like, focus on a good story. Think about an idea you want to create, and whether it's a remake or the original, think about a good basis to make your story from. And pay attention to the way that everything looks in frame, and like follow Matt Machado Enterprising Engine if you want. You can use your hands, you can use fishing line to pull like I do with vehicles, and just make a pleasing thing. Make something that you want to do. Don't worry about what people like. Is it Big World, Big Adventures? Is it classic series? Is it Railway series? Do something that you like. Rewrite your favorite episode. Add something to a CGI character that you want to dev to, like I gave one for Proteus earlier. Make a story for Nia. Make it cool. Make it something with Thomas. Make it something with the Reverend Audrey. Do something that's you. Like, I'm quoting Sean Tucker, who is a photographer and filmmaker from Great Britain. Look him up, Sean Tucker. He is like the why about photography. He's a really outspoken person when it comes to that. Be authentically you. Be yourself. Do what you like to do, and don't let your ideas or opinions be based on anything that you think anyone would encourage you, anything else, but to do good stuff and to do things that make you happy, because
do what makes you happy.
Here, you know. And
I'd always, like, personally, I'd always say go for the original stuff, because when you're starting out, it might not be amazing, but it's something new, and it'll stand out more than I hate to say that just another remake, because as creators of some remakes can get, you do get a lot of them. And if you really want to just, I'd always say, or I think while you're working on original stuff to get your like cinematography levels up and you're filming, do some remakes to kind of help you along the way with the original stuff. Totally. But I just from a personal place, I'd say go for that original story that you've wanted to do, regardless of what people might think of it. Do it.
And you know what? It's going to stick in someone's mind. Someone's going to see it, and like years later, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I remember watching that video of."
Yeah, like there's some stuff that like I've seen from years and years ago. That looking back on it, like it was all right. It could be a lot better, but like that's the same for everyone. But I still love it because it brings that back. Like there are Combine Harvester 01. Ever seen his stuff at all? This is like going way back.
What's his name again?
Combine Harvester 01.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
With the weirdest thing
yeah, I remember that.
I was watching this stuff, and at my local line, Thomas Van A and Railway Inspector, I knew, and there was another guy with him, and I was just chatting to them, and I just kind of went, "Oh, sorry, I don't know your use. I don't know, what name you got." And it was him, and I just kind of went, holy shit, like, because it was only a few years ago, and it was just kind of like I watched your stuff like religiously as a kid. And you don't think about it, but he was only like a few years older. But yeah, like he even said, "God, don't remind me, I'm embarrassed by it." And I'm like, but it still made me I really enjoyed it, like, so even if what you do might not feels amazing, still go through with it, because it'll stick with someone.
Completely agree. Be as original as you can. Don't just copy.
Oh, Muffin Lovers just put a thing in. I have no space. I'm using my bed as a workbench. Like I'm in my
same issue. Yeah.
I'm in my university accommodation house here, and I have no space. Make sets. Don't think about a big layout. Make compact little sets. Yep. Like on the corner of a table. Only put your camera down. Figure out where you want your character to be in the picture and build your set around it, because you don't necessarily have to make the whole thing. If you're only going to see the character from a low down, a shed and like a house in the background, don't bother with your ballast. Don't bother with your hedges. Just do that.
Preach it.
Save your space. And you can still make it look really good. I've done it a lot where like I've done the bare minimum, but it looks fine on camera.
That's right. It's basics on making something look good with what you've got and making it a pleasing angle. And even if there's something in the background, like, don't worry, just get your hands dirty and begin doing so. That's what Casey Neistat in the vlogging community recommends for filmmaking. Get started and do something that you like. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect. Like I mentioned about D109 talking about Trent, talking about just customizing everything. That's my choice. That's my jam. But you don't have to. You don't want to. Look at Turtles and Thomas. He's doing stuff with his Ertl trains, and they look beautiful. And he, like with Matt Machad and Impressing Engine, he's doing stuff with toys and be able to make it look cool. Like, and they're great writers. They're fun collaborators. And you have someone like Cartoon Media who's doing this with 3D modeling making community. You have Luke who's collecting live steamrollers and making some.
Yeah, a few people. I've only got this the other day. A lot of people are just noticing.
You got this recently?
Literally the other day, yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I've got the fuel in the post and stuff. It's my first ever live steam model because this actually works off proper steam. Your firebox in there, put your burners in there, fill it with water, and this will actually be powered off steam. Yeah, it's a Mammoth fun little thing, and it'll actually drive the wheels and stuff once it gets going. So I saw a few people asking, so that's that.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. Well, this has been great. We're over the 3-hour mark now. I think it might be probably a good point to end.
I need sleep.
Yeah,
as we all do. Happy Easter, everyone. Thank you both. Stephen and Luke for joining tonight.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. And by the way, like, I'm sure, like, when I go on this live stream, I want to look and answer some of those questions on my Twitter. So if you haven't followed me yet, Sodor RY Modeler with 1 L Modeler on Twitter, and follow Luke. He's Luke Ryan on Twitter, right?
Yeah, at EXPL_cookie.
Yeah, because I'm sure there'll be a plethora of questions. Like, this is the first time I've been invited to be a part of a live stream like this publicly with answering questions about me and my work. Because I've done it for people like Cardi Cinema or his Unlikely Fan Project and other stuff. This is the first time I got to talk about my work. So if I haven't answered any questions, I'll be sure to go on Twitter when I have free time when I'm not working in this week and get back to it, because I'm sure there's some good stuff to come back to. Like, I like to be back on the show. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Glad you were here. This was great.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for having me on as well. Just like kind of impromptu. But I was really enjoying the stream.
Absolutely. I'll make sure your guys' Twitters are linked in the description. And so long. Bye, guys.
Guys, take care.